watching along earlier, I apologise. The phone overheated and cut us off. So I've had to come up with a solution to that. And I've put up one of my, well, the only one I've got, an umbrella from maybe the 60s. It's a fabric one. It's got Stand Fast Australia label on it, and it's got great big floral blooms on it. It's a stunning umbrella, but when I opened it on Australia Day, before Australia Day, I went to a picnic with my son and my ex-husband, and one of the arms has snapped off, unfortunately. I don't know if I can fix it. I had never used it before. I bought it many years ago and it's been in storage all that time. But anyway, I've got the umbrella up, so hopefully that will stop the phone from overheating. Now, before I get on to the sewing, crikey, here we go. I'm pretty sure in my last live, which was some weeks ago now, I had shown you that I was gifted 2 kaffir lime fruits, and I don't think I've ever seen them in real life before, so I was quite excited by that. And I decided I wanted to know if I could grow one from seed. So I did some research, and a lot of people said it won't grow from seed. But I found one fellow overseas somewhere, young fellow, and he does it in his village, and he did a YouTube video. It was fantastic. So basically what he said, and I did what he said, is I shaved off the pith and I've frozen it to use in curries and things as I need it. I've juiced them. I'm speaking fast at the moment, I apologise, because I want to get through this gardening bit so I can get to the sewing, which is why we're here. So I froze the pith and the juice, and then I extracted the seeds. And what you have to do with the seeds, you've got to rinse them well. And then they're tiny little things. These ones were anyway. I don't know if these are the healthiest, because my next door neighbour the other day gave me a couple of kaffir limes as well. I didn't know they had them. And theirs are quite a bit different to the ones I was given. They're just not, the indentations in the wavy bits aren't as deep. Anyway. So this is how big the seeds were that I was working with. And what you have to do is, after you rinse them, you have to peel the outer shell, the outer casing. See, this one's still got some on it. That's probably why it didn't germinate. You got to peel the outer casing, it's still alive in there, off the seeds before you can attempt germination. Now, this young fellow looked like, or I'm sure he said he was living in a rural village. He didn't have much at his disposal. So all he did was use a Ziploc bag and a piece of paper towel, which is what I've done. Dampen the paper towel, put the seeds on that, zip it up so it acts like a hothouse. And then I've just sat it out the front on this table in the sun. So after everyone telling me they won't grow, I'll show you what I have ended up with. These ones are not as advanced. They've all been done at the same time. I'm just taking, the other thing I did was the hot houses that Dad bought me, the little ones that Dad bought me a couple of years ago for Christmas, have got some sort of germ in them. So everything I try to grow in them, it doesn't grow, it rots, it does this horrible thing. I need to clean them out and sanitize them and whatnot. So in the time being, I've got these black pots, and I found these at Bunnings. They were very inexpensive. This is weeks ago, before I realized how financially challenged I currently am. I'm pretty sure these were less than $1 each, or they weren't much more. They're pots for potting, but I decided to turn them upside down to make little hot houses. And I don't know if you can see, I've got, of course, the dirt. Well, these need a bit more water by the looks. You can see there's one there that doesn't look like it's germinated yet. I won't touch them because they surprise me. Some of them have sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks, a couple of months even, and haven't done anything, which is the case with this pot. These ones didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden they're starting to come up to germinate. So I've pretty much I just filled the pot with some citrus and fruit potting mix that I had. And pretty much just sat the seeds on top. I've done the lightest little sprinkle because the potting mix has got so much, so it's got these bits of bark and stuff in it, which I think might be too heavy for the poor little seeds to push through. So I try not to, I've pretty much just sat them on top. So that's the pot that's been the slowest to grow. I actually transferred these from that piece of paper towel. Okay, so what I originally did with this one was they looked so delicate, I didn't want to touch them, so I cut the bits of paper towel out around them and just put the paper towel in the pot as well. Not all of them, you might see. So now I can't get this lid off. Now this is the first lot I transferred. Look at that. So I am incredibly impressed with my efforts so far. I haven't done any gardening for a very long time because I've been so bloody unwell. I want to pick, I'm not going in, I want to pick those bits off the leaves, but they're very delicate, these leaves. They will snap easily. But I'm chuffed with these results. So I just thought I'd share that since I shared it last time. And before I clean up this dirt here, I also wanted to share, last week I think I posted on my Instagram an image of a pansy that was in my garden last year. And when I went to Bunnings weeks ago to get dog food, I had a look to see if there were any, and there was no black ones. I love the black ones. So my dad found me, these aren't pansies, they're heartsease, but I've got to show you because Cara had commented how beautiful they are, and they truly are. I can't get them in focus, unfortunately. They look like velvet. They're absolutely stunning. So for the sake of $2 a pot, which I didn't even pay for, nearly every winter I try to have at least one of those little purple pansies at my front door. If I'm doing financially okay, I might fill a larger pot with them, with a, you know, like a terracotta pot or something to have at the front door, because they just make me happy. I love them. So let's get back to, I probably could update you with a little bit of this as well. If you follow along, you'll know I've been unwell. To cut a very long story short, the last 2 weeks I have not been able to walk. I don't know what's going on. My body just doesn't want to cooperate at all. I've ended up with walking sticks, Canadian walking sticks. I've been quite unwell. I think I've got multiple things going on. I have a couple of diagnoses previously, but there's more things going on top of that. Anyway, saw my neurologist again on Thursday. He's prescribed a new medication, which is an injection that I give myself. I had my first one on Friday. It's for migraines. And I actually shared a video on Wednesday, I think last week, saying that I was having a good day. I was migraine free and I felt better than I had the day before. But after having these injections and the pharmacist did say to me it would happen. Hello, Jude, how are you? It's so good to see you here. The pharmacist told me that it would act quite quickly, and I tell you what, when I said, I've been saying in the past 6, 8, 12 months that I'm having a day without a migraine, I don't think I actually was compared to what I'm feeling now. My head feels so clear. I can see clearly, like visually see clearly. Even with my glasses, I have not been able to see without everything being blurry, which is one of the big symptoms of silent migraines if you get them. I was getting a combination and mainly silent. I had a couple of really painful ones, but I can think a lot better. I'm remembering a lot better, and I just think that it's primarily as a result of this injection. So I'm thinking, looking forward, that these injections, if they work, if I don't throw an allergy to them, which my body tends to do, touch wood, they could potentially save my life, I think. I have been so unwell. I don't know how to explain how unwell I've been. Now I've got to focus on the knees to see what's going on there. I've got a referral for some x-rays. Pretty sure they just want out. I need knee replacements. I need a hip replacement. I discussed that with my doctor. He looked it up. It was 6 years ago, which we didn't think it was that long. So checking on the knees again, that will be the next thing. I've still got to balance my hormone levels. They're all over the place. But I'm feeling so much better today. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that poor Miss Willow is having a rough trot. When I went to the neurologist, I left her at Mum and Dad's with their Great Dane. The two of them get stupid when they're together. They play around. They're good. They're well behaved. They just play. They get stupid, you know. She's come home with an injury to her leg. She's got some terrible deep bruising up the front, sort of from her heel to her, like from the paw pad, from here up to her sort of elbow joint, I suppose. She got some stripes that were raised and they're terribly bruised. And then when I put some anesthetic on it, you could see that it had been grazed. My fingernails aren't, well, they are dirty. I was cutting up cherries and all that cherry juice is in there that I can't get out. Let's see if I can clean them up a bit better. So yeah, Willow, and she's having more trouble with her eyes. She's experiencing allergies. So the poor little mite, every time she walks outside, her nose pours out liquid. Because she's got these lacerations. They're not big, they're just like grazes, but they're terribly bruised. And then she's got a little laceration about that big in the back of one of her paws. And I think that knee that was infected after she had her gastropexy done, I think it keeps flaring up because she limps on it every now and then. And those evenings that she's limping, I give that joint a good massage, a gentle massage, and she's walking on it again. So I'm thinking she's having issues with that knee still as a result of that previous infection. It's not infected anymore, but it has flared up. So this is the stuff. This has got some of these things for her little eyes to wipe them. These were from my mum, actually. My mum has an eye condition and she gave me some of these so I know what to get when I need to get some for her. And she has 2 different eye drops every day. And she also has, this is what I've been putting on her wounds. And when you put this on, it sort of comes out this purpley colour and then turns this beautiful magenta, bright magenta pinky colour. But the purple bit stays that colour on the wound, so it makes it a bit clearer to see where the wounds are too. So in the case of that bruising and the graze I was speaking of earlier, it was very hard for me to see them, but once I put the Centrogen on, I could see it quite clearly. Right, now that all that's out of the way, I really should be inside getting some work done. I'm still finalising a couple of parcels and I want to start digging out some more things to list because, as you can imagine, with all these specialists I've been seeing and all this extra medication I've needed for me and Willow, I'm struggling like a lot of us are. So I really need to get some more items up and out to get a bit more in to pay those bills, if that makes sense. So if you're wondering, I'm just trying to clean this, make my nails look a bit cleaner on camera because they look bloody dreadful, don't they? And it is, they have been, I have washed my hands. I should have got a doodad out to clean underneath them, shouldn't I? That's what I've failed to do. I'm in a rush with it, well, as much as you can rush when you're in pain. Let me just finish this last couple, see if I can tidy them up a bit more. So, what I thought we would do is just check in on where I'm up to with my Forever Scrappy Quilt by Sue of Flower Child Quilts. Just gonna have a drink of coffee, guys. Now, I think I mentioned I hesitated over doing this quilt from the get-go. When Sue released the pattern, I had no plans whatsoever of making another quilt. I've got a pile of quilts in there I've got to finish. There's at least 12 or 13. So the last thing I wanted was to start another quilt. However, I have been thinking for quite some time I'd like to make a really beautiful quilt that I can take with me when I move into state finally, whenever that's going to happen. When this quilt popped up, I thought, oh, that might be just the quilt I'm looking for, because I do have, as you know, a lot of vintage linens here. I do have some vintage textiles. I did speak to Sue about it and said, look, I don't think I have enough fabrics. And she said to me, you don't need to. Just, you know, you don't need to do it all at once. Just as you find them, add them to your pile. And that's what I've been doing. I also discussed with Sue, I only wanted to use vintage textiles. But Sue mentioned to me, because I said to her, you know, am I ever going to find, I'm not as good a hunter as Sue is. I know she shares some of her secret buying spots, which is very kind of her. Sorry, I missed that bit. Jude, soak them in lemon juice in warm water, gets the dye out. Oh, thanks, Jude. I didn't know that one. Jude's just suggested that I soak my fingers in lemon juice and a little olive oil in warm water. It gets the dye out and moisturizes the fingertips. So they are very dry. My skin is very dry. Well, it is winter here, but I have had very dry skin lately. We'll try that, Jude. So Sue also suggested that I could she told me that she has used reproduction fabrics in her quilt, and I had not thought of that. I had not thought of doing that. So I've also been on the lookout for some reproduction fabrics. Now, the other day I had to drive Mum out to Spotlight, and look, as a rule, if I'm making something like this quilt, I would not think to look at Spotlight for fabrics. I normally try and go for, at the moment, Liberty or Mum and Son or Momsen, as some people pronounce it, which I don't know if you know is only, from my belief, only available from one store in this country. So I often miss out on Mum and Son. Or I've also been putting in some, what's this brand? You know it. I've got a mental blank. This is also from Beck's store. Petite Pan or Petty Pan. So I've also been putting some of that in. I haven't put this colour in yet. I don't know if I will. However, I do have a box here of fabrics I've been cutting and backing, and I don't know if I'm going to use them all in the quilt either. So this is a bundle that Mum found at Spotlight the other day, and I am looking for me, I'm trying hard to use 1930s, 40s, 50s fabrics. I don't want to go outside those decades if possible. In saying that, I've been buying some reproduction. So this is one that Mum got for me the other day from Spotlight. I'm still not sure I'm going to use it. I'm not sure if it's the colours I want. I have backed some so I can cut some bits out, and I'll show you how I've done that. By the way, this one was a reproduction from Spotlight, at least 12 months ago. These came, might have been Grandma's Flower Garden or something, I can't remember. And this was another reproduction pack from Spotlight from some time ago. I've got some Liberty now. My Liberty collection is about as big as the end of the eye of a needle. But anyway, these ones came in the vintage Dame one that Mum picked up. This is another one I got from Spotlight after I keep saying I won't use Spotlight fabrics. And I have this in green already, and I have it in red already, and I didn't realise they had this colour. Now, I had bought the red and the green at least 12 months ago. And when I saw that, Mum said, go and I'll get that for you too. So, and I think it was 40% off. per metre. So I got that one to add to the stash because I do have a bit of this aqua colour in my quilt. So this is what came in the vintage Dame. Okay, now we did find, or Mum did find, I didn't see them, Mum found more in this range on the bolts at Spotlight. A purple one, and you know, like I look at these here in this pile and I think I just don't know if I'm going to use all them, but when I look at my box here, they might actually work. So there's this one, that same print in a white with a white background. Try and get them in the shot a bit better. Then there's this really busy one, which these ones, Jude, or the last ones I showed. These, to me, yeah, I suppose these are pastel. This one I quite like. I might use this one. I might end up using all of them. And I really like this one. I'm thinking I might use this, see that, as a feature. I don't know if the colours are showing as well on this monitor. This is a very pretty pale pink. It's a little bit brighter than what it looks on the monitor. Just trying to compare visually. So what I do, what I've done with those ones is, now I don't always, because it ends up being a beautiful. I did order weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago. When I first started the quilt, I think I mentioned because I was using so many, and this is probably a good example, this one, so many different kinds of fabrics in my piecing. So this piece here is a beautiful piece of bark cloth. I think that came from Sue. This is a piece of Liberty, a lawn. This is I think this is a petite pan. This might be a Mum and Son. This is an old napkin from the 50s. It's a woven, like almost a damask, but it's a lightweight, beautiful fabric. And this is part of a little doily. So what I found was when I started piecing them together, I'll see if I can find another example I have here. And I'm doing it all by hand. I'm doing all my piecing by hand. That might be another good example. That's not the best one I've got there. Some of them have already gone into a 12-inch square. There's another one. There's another one. So what I found was, when I look at that, I've got to stop ironing the bloody things because it's starting to mark them. These are beautiful fabrics from, now I'm going to get this wrong, and I do have a record somewhere. I need to keep better records. This is one of the reasons why I write on my general Gladys and Maud Instagram account what I use in each square, so I can go back and jog my memory, because I know I'll forget. This is I believe a feed sack, and I can't remember if this came from Lucello or Nairi. This one, I think, again, I can't remember if this is Lucello or Nairi as well now. I have to go back. Anyway, this one is quite firm, I suppose, like it's still got sizing in it. This one, not as much. The weights aren't hugely different, but as you can see here, along with dog hair, I've ended up adding that stabilizer after I had pieced it together. This was only because this one's the same. This is a piece of cotton from, I would assume, 60s, 70s, maybe even up into the 80s. It's an older one, but it's not really old. This is a beautiful piece of vintage Sanderson linen that I've been coveting for some time. And this is a piece of reproduction cotton from one of those packs from Spotlight. So as you can imagine, again, the weights are all different. It wasn't sitting square for me. And what I found was, even though I'd measured and measured and measured and measured, you can see here how much, can you see the edge interfacing, that's how much it's pulled in. That's how big it should be finished. So that is how much it's pulled in as when I've stitched it. And I think that's because of the difference in the weight of the fabric. This is another one that I was showing you. I've ended up doing that afterwards to try and stabilize it. So once I finally worked that out, I did ask for some suggestions on my Instagram. You know, you seasoned quilters that may use vintage textiles, how do you overcome this issue? I think everyone said to me, just embrace the wonk. Well, my brain wouldn't do this. This is one of the first ones I did, and I unpicked it all, and I've ended up ironing the interfacing onto the back and then hand piecing it again. So this is a piece of vintage cotton. It may have originally been a fine seersucker, and I've ironed it out accidentally. This is a piece, I believe this could be a mum and son. It was in a little scrap pack I got from Beck's nearly 2 years ago now. This was a piece of a doily that had holes in it. Look at it, it's gonna be because I keep using this as a sample. And this is a piece of Petty Pam. So again, all different weights. This one is quite fine. So when I pieced it together, it was wonky, it was puckering, it was very undersized. Unpicked it, pressed, put the interfacing on, and it's a heck of a lot better. So from that moment on, I think all the ones I've done since, I've put the interfacing on first. That is a piece of, I believe, Hello Kitty Liberty scrap. I've put the interfacing on first. This one here is like a yeah, I have tried to follow the weave as well, Jude. Initially I was just cutting along the warp and weft to try and ensure I wasn't getting as much movement, but it didn't end up working. It ended up stretching the fabrics too much, or I'd end up with when I say cutting with the warp and weft, I was actually, where's an example? So this, we can see this one a bit more clearly. This is a linen. I was actually following a line of warp that I was cutting, and then I'd follow a line of the weft cutting by hand. So I was initially doing that, but I was still getting too much warp. So now, for the most part, this one goes against everything we're talking about. For the most part, I'm trying to cut it, you know, with the warp and weft. I am not using a rotor cutter. I am using, I'll show you what I'm doing. I've got to take a few steps back. What I was going to say, this fabric here is probably a 90s or 2000s, probably a bit newer. It's a beautiful floral print, but it's like a dress fabric, a soft, I can't remember the name of it, a very flowy. So it definitely needed structure. And this piece here is a piece of cotton that I believe I bought from Sue, that she had unpicked from a duvet, a vintage duvet, probably 50s. I've got a few pieces of that from her, different colours. It's quite thin as well. Some pieces are much thinner than others. So I've needed that stabiliser, and for the most part it's done a fantastic job. Again, these poor pieces, I keep pressing them so they're marking. This one's got a pencil line that I was originally doing pencil, and originally I thought it was an idea to hand stitch all these down. I've given up on that, I'll be here forever. So yeah, these are the pieces that I'm now using interfacing. and they are looking much better. I've got to look at these. These are directional, most of these. See that one? You can see that's a heavier weave. It's not a cotton. I don't know what it is. It is vintage. It might be from the, like the noughties. This design, I think it's a linen blend, but it's very soft and a bit flowy. This is a 1930s feed sack, original feed sack, this one. This is what I was hoping to just use, but that's just not going to happen for me because it's well beyond my budget. Again, these are directional. I think I did that one that way. Although that one looks upside down now. Anyway, as you can see, hopefully as you can see, they're much better. I haven't trimmed these back to size yet, but they're much better. I'm getting much better points as well. They're not perfect. See, my points are much better. I'm not getting as much warp and distortion as I was. Especially with these. Which direction was that one? Was it that way? I think it was that way. This one clearly needs to be trimmed back. There's my little Hello Kitty Liberty. Hopefully I won't cut that off when I put that seam on. There's another Liberty. This is one of those spotlight ones in the green. There's the aqua and there's the red underneath that I was talking about earlier. Now, originally I did not, under any circumstances, want to put any fruit in this quilt. But I keep having strawberries pop up, and cherries, and strawberries, and cherries, mainly strawberries. So I thought, you know what, blow it. I'm going to put some in. I've also ended up, I wasn't going to put embroidered pieces in, or applique, but guess what? Here's an applique piece. You've seen some embroidered pieces, and I'm really starting to like it. And again, as you can see, with this interfacing on, look, that point's not bad. Quite happy with that one. This one's a bit more complicated. The points aren't perfect, but they're not too bad. I think this one went in that direction. This one has not been pressed yet. It's only been finger pressed. This one I think went that way. Again, sitting much better with that interfacing. This one you would have seen photos of on my Instagram. Again, look at these points, much, much better. Much better. There's another one. This one's a bit wonky. I don't know if you can see it leans across that way, and I don't know why. I don't know what's happened there. Unless I didn't measure this line correctly. Got a bit of wonk happening there. I think that's the worst one I've got, actually. This one, this is a very old fabric. I think that was one of the ones from either Licello or Nairi. This one I think is from about the 50s or 60s. This one, I think this one goes that way. Yeah. So this was a bit coincidental. I didn't realise until I went to piece it together. I've got a piece of Liberty coming in from each of these directions, which I thought was really cool once I realised. This is a very old fabric that I think came from a kit from Beck, maybe. This is a beautiful old 1920s cushion I bought from my cousin and I chopped up. I love it, it's very fine. This was a piece from Beck, a vintage. I don't know where she got that from. This is another piece from Beck, which I think maybe from a vintage apron, like a 1950s apron. Beautiful, I'm guessing, because it's similar to some more I've got. Or is that one of my bits? Crikey, my memory. Beautiful piece of fabric, that one. So that one's directional. This one, again, it's got a bit of wonk happening. Trying to keep it in the shot, but it's much better. That's a really old, like, that's a feed sack. That one, that's quite an old fabric. So's that. That's an old apron, like a 1950s apron. So's that one. That's from a doily. Is that all I've got finished? Oh, here's one I did the other night at Mum and Dad's that hasn't been pressed yet. That one goes that way. Again, it looks a bit wonky, but it might just be because it hasn't been trimmed. I did this in, it wasn't the greatest light at Mum and Dad's. Hasn't been pressed. It's only been finger pressed. So I think that is all I've completed so far, except for, if you haven't already seen, this is some I put together in my first 12-inch square. So there's one 4-inch here. That's an old, beautiful old, that could potentially be feed sack. It does look a lot like feed sack, but it could also be from an apron. I think that's from one of Beck's actually. That other one I wasn't sure of was from mine. That's from one of my old vintage aprons. That's some French vintage. That's just some old stuff from the 80s. Now, I never thought I'd put this in, but it works. That is a piece of flannel. Hey, you're very loud. That is hurting my ears, my friend. You don't have to call out to everyone that goes past up, Bubba. I know. So that's a piece of the 70s flannelette sheeting. That's a piece of 70s sheeting. It's not flannelette. Again, I didn't think I'd come into the 70s, but here we are. And I didn't think I'd use a check. Now that's a piece of vintage apron. We've got our Liberty, beautiful embroidery. Here, this is a bit of vintage. I only had a tiny bit of this, and this is where the cherries have come in that I wasn't going to use. This is a beautiful, very delicate piece that I got from Nairi, and that's another reason I've used the interfacing, because this piece of fabric was so fragile, same as the purple one. There's the strawberries again. This I think I might have bought from, either bought it from Sue or I bought it from an op shop. This is Heirloomtextiles I bought from Thorpe & Co. They're a Melbourne company. This is off an old 50s apron. I think this big bit I got from Sue. This is from Beck, one of Beck's, might have been from one of her Pinch Pots kits. I was buying those just for the textiles at one stage. Another embroidery, another piece of that duvet cover. It's another really old piece of fabric. This is an appliqué pillowcase. Another one of those duvet covers. That's from an apron that I had. Duvet cover fabric. That's a piece of feed sack. This is a beautiful old, very old piece of fabric from Nairi. Very delicate, that one. So yeah, that's how far I've gotten. I just have not been well enough to sit and get any stitching done. In between trying to get work done, trying to get the textiles out, I've hardly got any, I haven't been getting housework done because it's just too painful for me to move around. I've never been able to get any cooking done, so I haven't been eating well. I'm just checking. I was hoping it was charged enough by then. So what I wanted to show you was how I'm going about doing this. I was going to use this as an example. probably got too many of this size pre-cut already, but let's have a look. I've ironed a piece of interfacing onto the back of this already. Now, I don't always go this way. Sometimes I cut out the interfacing first. I cut it a bit larger than, like a 1/4 inch or so larger than the size I need all the way around, so I can trim it back. But in this instance, because I was rushing to get out here in time to start the live, I have already put it on. So what, this bloody monitor, I want to keep you guys in the shot. That might be a bit better. So what I do in this instance, I'd love some, what do they call it? Spy holes or peep holes or something, and I did start to make some. It just got too difficult for me to make them out of cardboard. They weren't square. I wasn't getting what I wanted, so that idea went out the window. But I'd love a set of those, you know, acrylic I Spy shapes or peepholes or whatever. The square ones in different sizes would be a great start. Have been keeping an eye out at the op shop, but so far no luck. Now what I want to do with this one, because it's not an all over pattern as such, it's got this feature here. I think I want to try and make it a feature. I should have a there should have been a water-soluble marker in there. A heat, you know what I mean, a friction marker. Okay, I need to clean out my bag because it has become a heck of a mess. Right, so what I will do in this case is I think I've got so many, these are 4-inch squares, so that would potentially work as a 4-inch. They've cut 4.5. Or we go down to this size. Now this is the size I was going to cut it. I think that's a 3.5, which will come back to a 3-inch square. So I'll lose the concept of that bouquet if I do this size. It'll just come back to this, which isn't bad. I've got 2 here, so let's do one of each, hey? So can you hear Willow playing with her toys? She wants me to go and play with her. So what I try to do is, it's difficult to mark. I put tape on it earlier to mark out so I could clearly see the distances, and it made it more difficult to see. So I'm just trying to put a bit of a, don't you come out here, you little buffhead. Oh, it's not helping, is it? What I'm trying to, this is a difficult way to do it, guys. So here's my 4.5-inch line here, and here's my other one here. So if I can try and position this bouquet inside that 4.5-inch. So what I'm looking for at the moment is, there's about, see, we've got a collection of foliage along here. This is about, there's 1/4 inch comes up to about this line of foliage, okay? It's a 1/4 inch, not even a 1/4 inch, an 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch space. So what I want to do is look on the other side and see if I've got it centered. Now this foliage doesn't come up as densely on this side, so I'm going to use this line, because what I'm also looking at is trying to ensure I've got this centered as well. So my center line from there is 1, That's my center line downwards. And my center line upwards is about there too. So right about there. So I'm quite happy with that. I need to move it down a bit because I had more pink space up here than down below here. Okay, so that's quite rough really. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but this is how I'm doing it with the tools I have on hand, okay? And again, I don't always do it this way. This is a hard way of doing it. I could cut out the interfacing first and stick it on the back and then go from there. It's a bit easier to center it that way. But because I've already got the interfacing on, I'm going to draw my lines directly onto the fabric. Maybe I'm not, because of course it's run out of ink. I bet you I've got no ink left in any of them, because I know another one had run out the other day. I was using one, I thought it was that one I was using at Mum and Dad's the other night. This one doesn't have a cap, so I'm assuming it's empty. Oh no. Oh, it is. Getting a little bit out of it. Well, this is frustrating. Okay, this is a bit better. Now, flipping my ruler. Now, often when I do this, I discover that it's not centered at all. I don't know what I do. See? I don't think that's... Let's draw our line on and have a look. I would not say that is centered. See how much pink space I've got down here? I need to move it down, I feel. So I'll come back and go... I know I can do it the other way and count backwards, but I'm too lazy to try and work that out in my head today. I've messed myself up. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. I need to lift it up a bit. That's potentially going to be too far now, so I've got a whole half inch there. I can't, why does that look... See, when I put the rule back on, it looks centered to me. This is what happens. This is what tends to happen for me when I do it this way. I always get one side that I can't center. So what I'm going to do in this case is just draw a line, move it up a bit, draw a line. I'm going to just do a little stroke through, a couple of strokes through there. I don't know. No, I don't, Jude. I've never actually done that. I should. I used to teach quilting. I worked in a quilt store for years and years and years, but I've never actually done that. Where am I? Oh, crikey. Use your brain, lady. Something's biting me on the ankle, and it's not very pleasant. No, I've never used a sand block. I did have a folder once years ago that had a bit of sandpaper in it, but it was only like A4 size, and I just got sick of trying to... Now that looks more centered to me now. It's a bit hard to tell with all those bloody lines on there. Okay, I'm going to cut it out. Now, notice, oh crikey, hang on guys, I've got to get, Whatever's biting me on the ankle. Oh, man. So what I'm also aware of is if I cut this out around that where that line is, how much more of this fabric can I use in these squares? So I should be able to fit a 1.5 inch square out of this corner. Yep, no worries. I could probably even fit a, might just, no, not quite, get a 2.5 inch square. So I could get a, yeah, I could. So I don't want to cut through that corner to get to this square. I don't want to cut through this corner to get to through there to get to that square. And I could potentially use this as well. So what I want to try and do is, I might even do it this way. Snip it through there so I can still rescue any of the bits around the outside that I might be able to use somewhere else. So I've just done a snip to get started. Let's cut this out. See if I can get you guys a bit further out. Sorry, I forgot I'd zoomed you in. You probably can't see a damn thing. This isn't going to be very, very neat, guys, because I'm not in a very comfortable position doing this. Do any of you get, like I'm out here doing this because I desperately needed some time in the sun primarily, and I needed some time off from everything else that's been going on. But nearly the whole time I'm sitting here, and I know it's something I've got to learn to not do, all I'm thinking about is I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I need to get X, Y, and Z done, I need to be... My brain never tends to rest. How about you? Or is that just me? I've asked my family if their brain does that. My kids do. Their brains, especially my son, never switches off, but both my parents are like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't have, no. So you can see why I've just done those lines through. That's the line I did not want to cut. So with those cross lines through there, that just makes sure I don't cut the wrong line, and they will line out when I press it. So there we go. There is it needs a good press. There is a 4.5 inch square cut out of that fabric. Now here is my pile of 4.5 inch squares. I can add that to that pile. I'll show you some of those shortly if you'd like. Now I might cut out a 3.5 inch square that I need in the pattern as well. So I'm just going to move down. I wonder if I can get one out of that corner. No, not big enough. 3.5, no. Okay, so we'll go down to this one again. There's my 3.5 inch line, and there's my 3.5 inch line. Try and center that as best I can. I might lift it up a bit, I think. No, then I'm going to have too much up there this time. Okay, let's see how this one goes, hey? Let's take bets. Not that I'm a betting person, but let's take guesses as to whether I'm going to have to redo the line. I can't get that. It's my 3.5 inch there. Where's my center? 1, 2, 3. There's my center line. Yeah, that's my center in this one. water. How do I get... I had the... I'm just reading the rest of your comments, Jude. I could make one. I just can't be stuffed at the moment. I've got so many other things that I've got to do. I want to be doing some spinning and crochet and knitting, and I've got a project I want to make. I've got a couple of projects on the go for family members, and they've all been put on the back burner because I've been prioritizing getting these vintage textiles out because I need to clear the house out and I need to pay the bills. So hardly any of my creativity has been prioritized. See, I do it every bloody time. It's way too high. I need to come down. Every time, no matter what size I'm cutting. This is why I'd love a set of those peepholes. I did pick up a set from the op shop a few months ago, actually, from my friend's shop. Oh, quite a few months ago. But they're funny, elongated diamond sort of shapes that I've just really got no use for. Not at the moment, anyway. Oh, get your stuff together, lady. Come on. Okay, let's have another go. 3.5, 3.5. I bet you this was still no good. Doesn't look right, this one. Don't know what I think about that. Now, I should have, in theory, cut that a fraction larger than what I need, because if I've got it incorrect... So now I think I've come down too low. I need to be a bit in between. So that's what I've got. See, there's too much pink at the bottom again. So let's see if we can lift that a bit. Shouldn't be this much guesswork in it. My brain is just not braining. Okay, let's try this line instead. Let's go halfway between them. See, I shouldn't have to turn this around either to count backwards. But today's brain is needing... It's like when you're using a map and you turn it around. Normally I don't have to do that, but lately, crikey. And yes, I do sometimes still use a map, a paper map. Now that's confusing because I've got so many lines there. And I didn't mark which is the incorrect one in that direction. It's the outside one. I have marked it, I just can't see it. Okay, so let's try and cut this one out again. See how much of a mess I can make of this one. Let's start this in here. I'm sure this is incredibly exciting for you to watch. I'll get to the other bits shortly. I think I showed all this last time, but anyway, I have been really enjoying making this quilt. So that's another reason I thought I'd share it again. And to be honest, you'll probably see me sharing it even more. I'll keep sharing bits and pieces as I go along, I'd think. And it'll probably be the same thing every time. But I just, as I mentioned in the last one, I believe I mentioned, I rarely do anything the way that most people do. Even when I'm painting or spinning, I'm a self-taught painter. Oh, I did do some painting classes many years ago, watercolour. I'm self-taught, primarily painting. I've taught myself spinning. I taught myself dyeing. I taught myself jewelry making. I've been to silversmithing classes, but I've taught myself with clay, silver clay. That doesn't look too bad. I'm quite happy with that one. So that can go on the 3.5-inch pile. And then, see, we've got these holes cut out. I don't want to waste. I want to try and use as much as I can, okay? So I do need some. And that fit a 2.5. Again, brain is not braining, so I have to turn it around. I can get some 2.5-inch strips out of that. So what I'm going to do is, or can I? No, I can't. See? Not braining. I can get 1.5-inch strips. I'm usually looking at it in this direction, that's why. See how this side, oh crikey, you can't see anything. See how my rule, this side's got a 1/2 inch there, the other side hasn't. So I've got to be aware of that as well when I'm doing this, because I forget. Okay, so it looks like I'm only going to get an inch, 1.5-inch strip out of that side there. So what I will do for now is just going to draw a line. And then I'm going to come over 1.5 inches. I actually do a little bit wider. So what I'm doing, when I do my lines, I'm always making sure I put my ruler line on the inside of my drawn line. So not only have I got consistency, but I'm leaving that little bit of extra leeway in case I need to trim back or something. Okay, so there's a 1.5-inch strip drawn, and what I can do with this is draw up some I'll just draw off a neat end point first. Hopefully you can still see that in the shot. So I'm just squaring this edge off pretty much. Oh, there goes the rule. I think I need a smaller square one would be handy. I do have a small one, but it's not in inches, and I only work in inches these days with my quilting. So I've got that line, and I've just squared that edge off up there. So what I can do now is come and draw in some, I need some 1.5-inch squares, so I can either do that, draw off some 1.5-inch, and again I'm out of the bloody shot, I apologise. This must be frustrating for you guys. I can do a series of 1.5-inch squares, or I can do a 2.5-inch, which is going to give me, that's where the line is. Oh, Jesus. Let's have a look, see if this is a bit better for you to see. So I've drawn a line there. Doesn't look square now. I'll come in a fraction. So there's a line for my 1-inch square, 1.5-inch square. Then I can do all different lengths here really for what I need. If I do a 2.5-inch, I will get from there to there. So I'll just get that popping out the bottom. That's not too bad. I might draw that off there. Have some offset colours. I can do a 4.5-inch because I use those in it. There's 4.5-inch strips in this quilt. So that will give me from that line, and it's not quite square, so I'm coming a little bit to expand that length so I can trim it back. 4.5-inch, then I can go, let's just go a 1.5-inch here, so it's mainly just pink. Oh, I could probably do a 2.5-inch there. I need more 2.5 than 1.5. I've got so many 1.5, it's ridiculous. And I might leave it at that for now, because that starts another bouquet there pretty much. That's the last line I've just drawn. There's another bouquet there. So for now, we'll leave it at that, and I will, let's cut this. I'll zoom you back out again so you're not getting seasick trying to see what I'm doing. So again, when I'm cutting just outside that drawn line, so I've got a little bit of leeway. I can trim it back. I'd prefer to have it a fraction too big than to have it too small. It's much easier to correct if it's too big. And I've got to remember that. I try and cut them all to size before they go in this box over here, but I did find some the other night that weren't cut to size, and that's okay. I've just got to be aware of, why won't that fit in there? Why is that not working? I remember. Okay. So I've pretty much just cut that 1.5-inch strip off now that I drew earlier. I'll move this out of the way. I'm getting a really sore butt here because I'm on a stool, and I can guarantee you my chances of standing up from here when I'm done are very slim. Then I will come up this line. I've put my glasses on today. I don't usually wear them, but because my eyes are working so much better than they have in months, I thought I'd wear them, and I feel like I'm doing some of the most wonky work I've done in a long time. Mind you, if I go back and look at my work I've done in the past few months when I've had those migraines and haven't been able to see properly, I may go, oh my gosh, that is a mess. I don't know yet. I haven't gone back to have a look. So here is a 2.5 by 1.5. Here is a 4.5 by 1.5. With any luck, I've got them correct, because sometimes I cut them and I go, that's not the right size. What have I done there? There's another 2.5 by 1.5. And this is a 1.5 by 1.5. Right, so what I do then is, I'm getting bitten again. It feels like there's sandflies out here. There shouldn't be, it's nearly winter. So once I've cut some of these to size, they all go in here. I can't pinch you out any further. I've tried to keep these in some kind of organisation. There's that pen I was looking for. So got a bit of a mess here. These are my 2.5 by 1.5 inch. There's more of them down there. Some of them are embroidered. They've all got interfacing on them. That's a very old vintage piece. I think that came from Beck, from a pack. That's a bit of embroidered linen. Now that linen was I think that was a tray mat. I did get some flowers from it, and then I had all these leaves left, and instead of discarding them, I've decided to cut some of those out because I might use them in here. So all different. There's another embroidered bit, vintage linen, all different bits and pieces in here. So I try to have, and I did have, obviously I've gone through that. This is all messed up from when I was at Mum and Dad's the other night. What I do try to do, I think I need to work out a better system for this because it's a pain in the rear when I'm trying to find bits. And they're not all staying. So far these are all my 1.5 by 1.5 inch bits. And what I've been trying to do is group them. So, you know, that I'd probably say is a red, a yellow, a blue. That could potentially be a blue. That's a bit thicker, so I'll put it on the bottom just for a bit of security. Stabilization. A green. Look at this green. I think that's a mum and son, I think. Green. More green. So this is what I have been trying to do. Obviously I haven't gone through all the piles and put them in order. Now that one, I don't know, I'd probably put that in a red. There's some more green. I love this. Do you know what? When I got this, I think I bought this as a lolly from Beck's store, this Liberty. I wasn't fussed on this colour and now I love it. It's one of my favourite colours and I'm thinking I should try and get some more if there is any available. I haven't looked because I can't afford it. Yellow, there's another green. That's a vintage fabric. Where did that one come from? Beck maybe? I can't remember. I need to check. That's a bit of that, one of those duvet covers. What's that? That can go in my purple pile. Purple. Now I've got all these bits. See this? That's got raspberries on it and I'm not convinced I'm going to use these. I just don't think they work. I'll set them aside and show you as I go. I do have larger pieces cut. I thought it was a good idea at the time, but now I'm questioning. This is from the same fabric, but this might work. This is a little bit of strawberries. So what would I put that on? A red, I suppose. There's another purple. Tilda, that's a piece of old Tilda from when I was working in the quilt shop. I don't have much Tilda left at all. I used to love Tilda. I've gotten rid of most of my quilting fabrics. There's not much around except for the quilt kits I've got inside there to do. Put that on the blue. Blue. I could go through and sort these a bit better into different, you know, variations in each colour. But I don't think I'll bother. There's a yellow. Because you can be guaranteed that these will not stay in much order. So the reason I've got them in this tub too is because I carry this with me. So when I'm sitting in appointments, I can pull some out and do some. But if you can think of a better way that I can organise these without getting this happen regularly, these get all screwed up. See and hear how they get all screwed up. They're sort of ordered, but yeah, if you have any ideas or suggestions on how I can keep it a bit better organised, I'm certainly open to ideas, potentially of the cost-effective kind. That would be a bonus. Pink, look at that, that's a vintage pink. That's definitely from Beck's store, that one. I don't know if it's showing on the monitor just how fluorescent that pink is. It is incredibly neon, it's beautiful. But it doesn't look like it's actually translating through the monitor. This here, this beautiful little pink floral, is an apron I bought from Emma of, I think, Pressed Linen, I think Emma's shop's called. I haven't told her yet that I cut it up. It had ruffles on it. That bit's too small. That's not an inch and a half. This is a petite pan, and again, that neon is not, you cannot see how neon that pink is. That is a very, very neon pink, and it is not coming through that monitor. More purple. That's a Liberty, a cotton though, not a Tanner lawn. Yellow. This I classify as yellow, but when I put it on yellow, it almost looks more green. Now that one I might put on green because there's a bit more green than this one. I keep putting on the blue pile because these dots in the back are a bluey grey colour. Now this one I've been putting on the red pile, but it looks a bit more blue in that one, doesn't it? This is a pink, I suppose. There's a pink feature in the middle there. This is a pink. This is another vintage one now. Nairi, I think this one came from, and it's like a flannel or brush cotton. Another purple. You can see some of these are reproduction. This is a reproduction 50s. This is an original from a duvet cover that Sue has rescued. It's a bit of an apricot-y, dusty sort of, that's a reproduction. This is a reproduction. This is one from the 80s, I believe, that has snuck in that I don't know if I will use. Again, this is a modern linen, but I didn't mind that flower. I don't know if I will use that. It's too modern, I think. This is a, I can't remember the brand. It's one again from Sobe. It's a heavier one, that one. I think it's a Japanese fabric. Here's a bit of that raspberry strawberry one again that I don't know if I'm going to use. I just don't think it's going to work. This paisley I've had for years. I don't think it's going to work either. I think it's too modern. This hasn't been cut to size, I can tell. There's another green. Now see this, I don't even know if I'll use that. That's too much white. By the time I do my 1/4 inch, I'm going to lose the blue altogether, and I'll just have the tip of that rosebud showing through. And it just might be too much white. I might put that in the pink pile. I don't know. See, some of the bits, if you can't already tell, I've cut just for the sake of saving them and not tossing them, really. Not many of them. This is a very old French vintage piece, I believe. French vintage from Nairi. I only had a tiny bit of this, so I thought I'd try and use that. Again, the sort of white, I'm finding I'm avoiding any of the ones that don't have much colour at the moment, which I probably shouldn't be because I need to spread that out a bit more. That's a, some of you guys would recognise this fabric. I can't remember their name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. That's a petite pan. Newman. Judy, it's not Judy. I don't think it's a daughter's, that one, I think. Emma. Is it an Emma Newman? I can't remember if it's an Emma or a Judy, but Newman. This one I think I got from Beck, and I can never decide which pile to put it in, yellow or blue. There's another pink. Gee, it's getting, as the sun's gone behind a cloud, surely it's not that late yet that the sun's going down. Now, another one of the reasons I wanted to walk you through some of these is because I want to share where I got some of the pieces from. So, as I mentioned earlier, I really wanted originally to just use 1930s, 1940s fabrics. I didn't really want to go outside of those decades. It then spread into I left the 20s out because I just found it too difficult to find fabric from the 20s, although this is from the 20s, I believe. So it then stretched into the 60s. And then when I spoke to Sue, I said, I don't think I'm ever going to find enough fabrics. And it wasn't until Sue said to me, you know, I've used reproduction fabrics, and it never even crossed my mind. I'd like to buy some of Sue's fabrics, actually. So now, instead of letting you have to sit here and watch me sort through all of these little 1.5 inch squares, I might jump over to the 4.5 inch squares to give you the 4.5 or the 3.5. Let's go 3.5, hey? To give you an idea of where I got some of the other fabrics. So this is the one we've just cut up earlier from that. That's from that. Where is it? 50s Vintage Dame Collection from Spotlight, that one. That's where that one's come from. Once I iron those lines out, I will separate these because it will make it a bit easier. They're not the greatest ones. Okay, got a bit of Liberty Tanner Lawn. This is a piece of vintage, I think, from Beckett So Bee. This one I'm pretty sure is a bit of vintage from Beckett So Bee. And again, I've just bought over the last couple of years little scrap packs from her, or her pinch pot kits just to get the fabrics out. This is a piece of Mum and Son. I bought a cheetah piece from So Bee recently. I had ordered it some time ago, pre-order, and this is a piece of that cheetah piece from the Mumson or Mum and Son. This is a vintage French, I think from Nairi. I think this is from Nairi too. It's either from Nairi or the Cello. I've got some that are very similar from both. You can see this one's been reclaimed from somewhere. There is a, I thought I'd pulled that out. There is a stitch, here we go. There's a thread in here where it's been reclaimed from something, a curtain or a cushion or something. Not that that's going to matter, that's within that 1/4 inch allowance, so that will disappear. This is from that Mum and Son cheetah piece, so is this one. Let's see, strawberries again. Strawberries keep popping up in my stash. That's another bit of Liberty. Now this is a piece of very fine, I don't know what it's called. I reckon it's probably from the 80s, maybe the 90s, I reckon 80s. It's a very lightweight dress or blouse fabric. Can't remember what it's called, I'm sorry. I've had terrible trouble remembering my fabric types. I've cut it a bit small so you can see there's a bit of overhang from the backing. I don't know if I'll use that or not. This is a beautiful piece of vintage French fabric again, and I think this one was from Nairi as well. There's that same fabric. See, some of these I don't even know if they'll go into the quilt. I think I've already got some of that in, but I kept thinking I wouldn't use it. And you know, that vintage, red vintage there, I don't know if that will go in. I don't know if it's the right colours. So this is actually a crepe. I would guess this is from the 80s. I'm not sure if it's a wool crepe. It does feel like a wool crepe, but it's a fine, very fine, well not very fine, it's a lovely fine weight crepe. So I've got interfacing on that. As I've said, they've all got interfacing on them. If they haven't got interfacing on them, they will have interfacing on them. This is a piece of vintage bark cloth. I think I got this from Sue. That's actually a lovely pink more than red. Doesn't feel like there's interfacing on it, but there is. This is from that cheetah fabric. This is from the cheetah fabric. Don't know if I'll use this, but again, we've got fruit coming up again. Apples and blueberries, I suppose. Not blueberries. Mulberries? I don't know. They're not blueberries. This is from that cheetah print. Again, don't know if I'll use this one. Here's that fruit again. This is a piece from Lucello. This is a piece of a vintage apron I bought for my apron collection. My apron collection has been getting sold off. They haven't been moving, so I made the really tough decision to cut into some of them for this quilt. This is a modern fabric I think I also got from Sue. This is a piece of a 1970s cotton sheet. This is a piece of fabric that I don't remember the brand, but did I get that from Beck? I can't remember now. I apologise. I'm going to have to check on some of these. This is a piece of Liberty, Tanner Lawn. I can't remember the pattern. This is a piece of, I believe, original feed sack. This is from Beck, from one of her kits. This is again a feed sack from Beck. This is a piece of that Newman, one of the Newman girls designs. I like them. Again, don't know if that will go into the quilt. I think I bought this at Beck's. I can't remember. I think it was just a lolly. This is from that cheetah, that Mum or Mum and Son cheetah print. This is the cheetah print again. There's so many pieces in this cheetah fabric that I love for this quilt that I think will go in it. That's from the cheetah, that's from the cheetah, that's from the cheetah, that's from the cheetah. Look at that one. This is from the cheetah. I don't know if I'll use that one. This is from the cheetah. I really like that one. I think I only got one of that colour. Now this is a piece I bought. Did I buy this piece from Sue? Or did I get it from someone else? I think that was one from Sue. This is another 1970s, maybe 1980s sheet, cotton sheeting. This is that floral one again. This is from the cheetah. And there's that floral again that I can't remember where it came from. This is the cheetah again. This is a piece of Sanderson that I have been coveting for quite a few years. And the lady that, no, this is a piece I found in a scrap bin at an op shop. And I think they charged me 20 cents or 25 cents. And I was going to use it to make a needle book. I still have just enough left to do a needle book, I think. So that's my beautiful vintage Sanderson that I've been coveting. That's another vintage cotton sheet, and I think I got that from Sue. Was it a sheet or a curtain? She might have said curtain, but it looks like sheeting. This is one of those beautiful reclaimed duvet covers from Sue. This is a piece from Beck that I bought from her shop. This is another, now I keep going to say this is a piece of vintage sheeting. It's not, it's a piece of fabric I bought from an op shop. It was, you know, salvage to salvage bit of fabric. This is a piece of that Sanderson again. Now this bit I can't remember if I got from Sue or if this is the one I got from the sewing basket. I think this might be one I got at the sewing basket. The only time I've been there, I was not impressed. I went to the one at Kincumber. I was very disappointed with it. This is another bit of that neon from Beck, a bit of Liberty. This is a bit from Beckett So Be that came in. Hello, Gina, how are you? I'm just rambling through at the quilt I've been working on. Haven't got much done because I haven't been able to get anything done, but I'm feeling good today for the first time in a long time. So I'm going through at the moment where I've sourced some of these fabrics from. I was explaining that originally I thought I'd do this quilt with just 30s, 40s fabrics, but I quickly realized that it was going to take me way too long to find them. Sorry, I'm just reading the messages that are up there. I missed yours, about the crochet Jude. I mean, I'm jumping around a bit here, sorry guys. I've never hand pieced a quilt. It's something I have wanted to do since I was very young. Newington, I think that's the one I want to go to actually. Newington or Newtown, Newington. Is that the one on the North Shore? That's the one I'd like to go to because people have been raving about that one. I might go down there one day. Maybe we can go together one day, Gina, on an adventure. I can only imagine what we could potentially get up to. Brain freeze. Yes, back to Jude for a second. I've always wanted to do a hand piece quilt. I never imagined. I have started a hexagon one years ago. I think I've already got further on this than I have on the hexagon one. I've just realised I've got about 3 hexagons I've started in there. I'm really enjoying this one, and since speaking to Sue about sourcing fabrics, I'm a bit more relaxed about it now. I was so focused on only using 20s and 30s fabrics that I had stopped moving forward with it because that's what I wanted, and I didn't think I could piece it together without those. But Sue's helped me realise I can, use reproduction. I don't have to use those. I can get other fabrics that still go in well, which is happening. Homebush, okay, cool. Well, I might have to organise that, Gina, when I've got a bit of money. That'd be good. I've been enjoying this, and the thing is, because I've been having so many appointments and tests and things this year, as I mentioned earlier, I pack this box in a bag and I take my zippered pouch with my scissors, my rule, my marker, my stitching, my needles and that. And when I'm waiting for appointments or stuck having tests and things, I'm stitching. Of course, I wasn't able to do that in the MRI last week. It would have been good if I could stitch. Because this MRI, not the last one I had last week, but the one I had last year, they're so advanced now. When I first started having MRIs, it would take over an hour just for my brain to be scanned. And the first few times I went in, they actually gave me oxygen and I had sedatives and all sorts of things because it was terrifying. Now I just go in. I've got it worked out. I've been in that many times. I've honestly lost count. I can't remember how many times I've been in. I've got a system now. I use wedges. I get them to strap my knees together. I know how I'm comfortable. I'm even at the point where I just wear clothes in. I don't have to wear a gown anymore. It's all worked out. But as I said, my second last one took 10-15 minutes, and I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that I finished. But the one I had last week, I didn't realise. They weren't just doing my brain. They were doing my brain, and they were doing my entire spine to the tip of my tailbone. But they were also, when I saw my neurologist on Thursday, I was blown away. I was so impressed with what he showed me. He had on he had multiple computer screens that he was looking at results and information and stuff from, but down the side of one screen was all these white rectangular boxes, and each one of those boxes was a different scan that they had done on me in that MRI. There was one on my arteries, one done on my nerves, one done on my bones, one done on my, I can't even remember what else there was, but it was amazing. But that scan took about an hour and a half. And I was, if you've had an MRI, you can't move that whole time. Going into it, they actually said to me, look, if this is too much for you, we can split it up. We can do half now or a third now, and then you can come back. I said, no, let's try and get it all done. Let's try and knock it all out tonight because I've got my neurologist next week. Let's just try and get it done. So that's what I did. My appointment was at 7 o'clock that night. So I didn't get home here till 9:30 that night. I just found it unusual for an appointment to be that late. But anyway, the results of my MRI were fantastic, which is not what I expected. There were no lesions, no scarring, no bleeds, no tumours, nothing. I was a bit concerned there might have been another pituitary tumour because I've had some of the symptoms again. Everything looks fantastic. And the best thing was the neurologist said to me that if he hadn't read my notes or didn't know me, had not met me, and know my age, he said I would look at your brain scans and think you were 18, 20 years old. And I just sort of went, oh yeah, okay. And he's like, I'm serious. He said, your brain is remarkable. He said, it is. He said, after everything you've been through and your age and the head traumas you've had, your brain is incredibly, incredibly healthy for your age. He said, I'm so impressed. So I was a bit flabbergasted by that statement. But anyway, the whole point of that was to say that I was not able to sit and stitch in the MRI, clearly. So this one, I don't think I told you, this came in one of Beck's pinch pot packs, pinch pot kits, that fabric. That's just more, these are just repeats of what I've already shown you. What were we talking about, Gina? Was there something I was going to come back to talk to you about? Homebush, Newington. Oh, you asked me how I am. I'm not doing too bad today, thank you. I'd explained earlier that when I saw the neurologist on Thursday, he's finally prescribed an injection instead of tablets for my migraines. And when I went to see the pharmacist to collect it, he said to me, you know, you'll notice a difference, an improvement nearly straight away. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. Well, he was right. I have noticed an improvement. And so I actually had the injection on Friday. I gave it to myself on Friday. And what are we, Sunday? I'm just amazed at how much better I feel. And I'm now realizing that when I've been thinking for the last 6-8 months or so that I haven't had a migraine, like today I don't have a migraine, compared to today and yesterday, I think I've had a migraine the whole bloody time. You know, most of my migraines are silent migraines. I've been diagnosed with hemiplegic migraines now. And the difference between how I feel today after that injection and how I have been feeling is like day and night. It's incredible. But anyway, I'm feeling a lot better. This piece of fabric is a piece of vintage fabric that I got from somewhere. I bought it. It was just a little bit. It was cut off something, and I can't remember. I don't think... No, I had more. I don't remember that one. Sorry, guys. This one's a bit of vintage sheeting from the 70s. Again, these are from that Momsam cheetah fabric. I'm really impressed with this, actually. When I saw the images on Beck's page when she was taking pre-orders a while ago, I ummed and ahed and thought, this is all from that cheetah. I'll tell you if I get to one that's not. I ummed and ahed and thought, you know, I just don't know if I'm going to use it all. I just don't know if it's going to suit my quilt. Well, I actually think I'm going to use a lot more of it than I thought I would. This is another piece of that duvet cover, one of those duvet covers from Sue. This is a bit of fabric from Sue. I think this is another one from Sue. These are all the same fabric. These are all the same. I started grouping them together into colours. It makes it a bit easier when I'm looking for some. This is from that cheetah print, the Mumson or Mum and Son. This is from that cheetah print. Now, I didn't want to put animals in it. I thought of putting bluebirds in it. But when I came across these ducks, I think they may go in because they are so cute. These reproduction fabrics, they're so sweet, some of them. This is another one from the cheetah. This is from the cheetah. This is from the cheetah. Oops, there's a Liberty under there. This is from Sue. This is from that cheetah again. This is a bit of a bigger piece of that 1920s cushion I cut up that I bought from my cousin. It's incredibly fine, this fabric, so it definitely had to be backed. This is some bark cloth. Now this was an apron I bought, a modern apron. Someone had recently made it from this bark cloth, and I was going to say I didn't buy it to cut it. I probably did actually. I only paid, I think, $2 for it. Beautifully made. It was a shame to cut it up, but I wanted that bark cloth to put in here. This is another piece of bark cloth. I think I bought it from Sue a while ago. This is that 1920s cushion again, and this is just more of that bark cloth in that one. And I've also got in that size, I need more in this size cut out, these reclaimed embroidered linens. Now I think all of these linens that I've cut up have had some kind of damage. Either they've had holes in them, or they've been torn, or they've got stains on them I can't remove. So they've been, love the colour of this one. These have been cut up to go into my quilt. Look at that. Here's that one again. That aqua again. This is beautiful. Look how beautifully stitched that is, if you can see that. I'm being bitten on the wrist now. This was a supper cloth, and I've used bits of this in so many projects it's not funny. I'm not sure about this going into it. Now, I wasn't going to show you the 4.5-inch squares, but there's a lot more variation in here, I believe. This is more from that cheetah print, the Mumpson one. Look at this. The colour is gorgeous. It's from the cheetah print, and it's got apples on it. So see, the fruit keeps popping up as much as I didn't want to use fruit. This is that piece we cut earlier from that 50s vintage dame. I don't think these will go in. This is a modern linen blend. I bought a scrap from my friend's upcycle store. It's beautiful fabric. It just doesn't go. It's too modern. Same as this. I cut a few out to see how they'd look. Rhododendron, but I just don't think they're going to work. A camellia. These gerbras. Now, this is a piece of that green from Sue again. This is a piece from Lucello. Now, most of these pieces from Lucello, or the pieces from Nairi that I speak of, they're usually just a one-off, because they were just little bits, little pieces that I bought in little scrap packs, I suppose. Some of them I might have got another 1.5-inch strip off, or I've just cut them square. Most of them don't have a lot of excess from the bits I'm showing you. Now this is from a 60s, I think, supper cloth. Again, not sure if this one will go in. This is from Sue. This is another fabric from Sue. The next couple, this is another bit from Lucello. This is from Lucello. This is from Lucello. This seems quite old, this bit. This is another bit from Lucello. Now, originally I bought these to make needle books, and I did make one using some of this. I think that Paula Sue bought from me. This is again another bit. I can never orientate this the right way. I don't know, but that's another bit from Sue. And this is another bit of that crepe that I reckon's probably from the 80s, maybe the 90s. I think it's a wool crepe. It's quite fine. Again, I've got smaller pieces of this already in it. See, there's a piece there. And it's not too bad. I quite like it, but don't know if I'm going to go this big with it. Now this piece is a vintage napkin. It's linen. It's a beautiful piece of fabric. I only had one. This next piece is from a 1950s supper cloth. You can see it's got that rayon, I suppose. Rayon blend, rayon thread through it. Beautiful bit of fabric, quite fine. Here's another piece of that stunning Sanderson that I've been coveting, that vintage Sanderson linen. I love that. Another piece of that reclaimed duvet from Sue. Another piece of Sanderson. Here's that grey again that I can't remember where it came from. Might have come from Sue, I think, now that I think about it. Here's another duvet piece, different duvet, this one. So now some of these 4.5 inch bits I've cut. I'm still not sure if they're going to stay at 4.5 inch. I might cut them back. That bit needs to be squared off. That's another piece of that Sanderson. But in saying that, I've only got one 4.5 inch square in this so far, in this piece. So this piece here is an entire 4.5 inch square cut. That's another piece I got from Sue. Now when I picked up that fabric, I think it's an upholstery weight fabric, or like a curtain weight or something. I did not think I would put that in here, and yet I think it's just perfect in that spot. I'm nearly through this pile again, guys, just showing you where I've sourced some of these from, what I'm using. That's a bit of sheet again. This is a piece of that bark cloth from Sue again. Which direction's up? Sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does. There's another piece of that Sanderson. I think that one goes that way. Now this piece I bought at the Reclaim Centre. My friends own it and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in the comments later. I picked this piece of fabric up some months ago thinking it would be okay to put in this quilt. I think I got it the day after I bought the pattern. And when I got it home I realised it's broadcloth. So I might hang on to what's left, potentially, maybe, to back this quilt. I don't know yet. Okay, so now I've got some embroidered bits I want to show you. Now this, again, we've got strawberries, see? They keep popping up. They've got 2 of these, and I bought these from Nairi last year. They were bits that she'd reclaimed from something, maybe a supper cloth. I don't know, I can't remember. I don't know if she told me. And I thought, I like those, I might use them in a needle book, and I've cut them up to put in here. This was from a napkin. I only had one, I think. A applique, probably most likely 50s. It's mid-century 50s. The thing I'm concerned about with these, I'm worried there's too much open space here. Too much white, too much, you know, they're quite busy, the pieces I'm putting together. So I'm worried that might just be too much. This is another piece I got from Nairi last year or the year before that she's reclaimed, but the embroidery is absolutely exquisite. And it was just a piece, I've just cut it down to size. This was an applique pillowcase. I don't know if you remember these. This was sort of the center and it comes out like this. Now, I wanted to obviously use this in here. I have used some of it already in this first square over here. Now, what I was aware of, if I was to, that was the edge of the pillowcase, that edge of that applique there. I didn't want that to get hidden in my 1/4 inch seam, so it would have just been showing that. So what I did, some of the other cotton that came off the pillowcase, I've overlapped at the back and hand stitched that down under that applique to extend that enough so that's still going to be showing out from my 1/4 inch. I hope I've expressed myself clearly because I'm struggling to do that. This is a beautiful piece of reclaimed embroidery from might have been a table centre, that one. This is, well, from a table centre again. There's a lot of white, a lot of empty space happening with these, so I'm not sure. It's another one. This one had some huge holes in it. So I've reclaimed that. Unfortunately, I've cut that bow off, but we can't have it all, can we? Here's another piece of that pillowcase. So the flowers aren't, you'll notice they're not centralised, and I did that for a reason. A, to give character. You know, I don't want them all the same. And B, to utilise as much of the cushion as the pillowcase as I possibly could. So I could have cut that central piece out there, but then I'd only get one piece, and the rest of it, there wasn't really much I could do with it. So I've offset it so I could get 2 pieces out of it that can go into the quilt. Now here's some more of that aqua one that I showed earlier. And again, there might already be some of that in this. Is there a bit of that in here? No, I thought there was already a bit in there. This is a napkin. I've got a few more cross-stitch napkins that are much finer than this that I'm contemplating. Here's that other strawberry from Nairi, which I've spilled something on it, so I'll have to fix that. Oh gosh, I certainly have spilled something. They will need a good clean. That's got spillage on it. This one's got spillage on it, crikey. The reason I put them in this container is to try and stop any chance of that happening. This has got spillage on it, but it doesn't have a lid on it because I can't fit it all in. Look at the embroidery on that. It's stunning. I think I got that from Nairi. I'm going to have to sew. That's very disappointing. I'm very disappointed in myself for allowing that to happen. That's got spillage on it. Do you know what? I had my bag with me when I went to the hospital the other day, and someone walked past with an empty can in their hand. This is, I wonder if it's spilled in there because it's just a little bit. They were sitting on top. They always sit on top because they're bigger. They hold the smaller pieces in. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm quite disappointed with myself for allowing that to happen. There's another embroidered bit. And again, as you can see with a lot of these embroidered bits, there's a lot of empty space, which I just don't know how it's going to work yet. I have contemplated, should I hand paint some of the backgrounds to give a bit more colour? But if I do that, that colour is going to seep into those threads, so I don't think it'll work. I don't think I can block the threads off to not absorb the paint. Now this bit of embroidery, a lady that saves things for me in an op shop, she saves a lot of stuff that they throw in the bin actually. This was, it looked like someone had started to make a coat hanger cover, so it was sort of shaped like that and then flat along the bottom. And it was just cut out, it had interfacing on it. There was no, it hadn't been sewn together. There was this bit of embroidery on one side and she'd started on another side and that was it. So I've reclaimed this to put in the quilt. It's lovely stitching. This one I'm not sure about. I love it. It's got bloody spillage on it too. Jeez. This is a 1950s pillowcase embroidered. This is machine embroidered, and this is the main reason I'm not sure about it, because the only other piece of machine embroidery I have in here, which I didn't want to include any machine embroidery, is the other piece of machine embroidery is on the one of, I think it was one of these first ones we looked at. There it is. That corner down there. That's another piece of machine embroidery. So yes, don't know if that bit will go in yet. Oh, my favourite bit's got bloody spillage on it too. This was a doily it was terribly stained, and now it's terribly stained again. I'm so annoyed with myself, far out. This was a breakfast tray cloth. I tried to move it on. No one was interested. I've ummed and ahed and decided I love the colour so much, so it might go in. It's a bird again instead of flowers. This was a doily, mid-century. Again, this one is hand stitched. It's definitely hand embroidered, and it's linen, and I love the colour, so I'm hoping that one in. This is another machine embroidery, just not entirely convinced I want to put machine embroidery in it. Some of those larger pieces that I've reclaimed from embroidery are going to have to be cleaned somehow. As you know, if you're reclaiming a piece from a supper cloth or a table centre or something like that, if I'm just cutting out these 3.5-inch squares from a table centre or a sandwich tray cloth, there's still going to be bits left that are too good to not use. So these are little 1.5-inch hand embroidered. They've been reclaimed from one of the lighter pieces I've cut up because I want to try and utilise every little bit that I can. Is there any more? Yep. This was a little sandwich tray cloth and she was in bad shape. I couldn't even rescue the other end of it, but I did get this bit. This was part of a larger, I think it was a table centre, and these were just little bits that trailed off, and I didn't want to not use them either. Now this, you might remember, is from a larger print that I can't see now. Had a lovely big spray, but in between the large sprays are these little sprays of flowers, so I thought we'd use those too. Again, look at this tiny little flower. Now this was from around this one. See this one? These went around in between these big blooms, and I thought they were too pretty to not utilise as well. So they're not all centred because I've just tried to reclaim as much of them as I could. And this one's cut on the bias, which is another reason the interfacing comes into good use. I've been putting them in the blue pile. They probably should go on, should that go on red, blue or yellow? I don't know. I'd put the last one on blue because it's got more blue. There's another bit of embroidery I've reclaimed. There's some more over here, I think. Just tiny bits that, you know, they're just too good to not rescue. Here's another little, again, it's not centered because that's all I could reclaim, but by the time I get my 1/4-inch seam allowance, we still should see that flower. I'm tempted to even unpick that black because it takes away from it a bit, doesn't it? Again, this was from a little linen doily. She was a bit damaged, that one, quite a bit damaged. So this was from that, where is it? One of these squares I've put together, if I can find it. There's not that many here, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. One of the bits of embroidery that's already gone into this are great, beautiful, the pansies, that's what they were. A spray of pansies that have been hand embroidered. Maybe it's already in there. What have I done with it? Is it in this piece already? You think I'd remember by now, wouldn't you? No? What have I done with that? I'm sure it's in one of these. Oh, the second one on from the top, crying out loud. So this one here, this was actually from, I forgot to tell you, this was from a bread basket liner. So the pansies were on, you know how they have those 4 points that come out and then it drapes down into the basket? They were only embroidered on one of the points. The other 4 points just had a leaf. So I've saved the leaves in my little 1.5-inch pile. Now this one was from the other side of one of these I've already used. There's only one I did recently, so I thought it would be on the top. That would be too easy, wouldn't it? Here we go. This was from a sandwich tray cloth. This center here, and then these came off either side somehow. There we go. Up there maybe. So I've saved those. Again, you can see they're not centered because I've just tried to save it as much as I can instead of just tossing them. This was from a tray cloth. There's bigger pieces in. This one, I just saw it. Make a liar out of me. I think this is from, no it's not, this one's from a napkin, sorry. I thought it was from the same one, it's not. This is from one of those little mid-century, a lot of this was too damaged to use, but these little bits were around the edge, so I was able to rescue some of these little hand-embroidered flowers. And this piece was from that one I told you came from this one, the coat hanger cover. So this one here, this came from over here somewhere, up there, there we go. So that piece came from there. So I cut that into a little 1.5-inch square. This is from a dresser scarf. I've got little bits of this in all sorts. There's another one of those leaves, another bit of that. This one is from, now I've used a bit of this. This was, I believe, a tray cloth. Here's a bit of it. This flower here, mid-century one. And this was off maybe there. No, maybe up there. So that bit came from there. That's another bit from that crocheted one, the cross-stitched one, not crochet. There's another bit. This bit was from, now I don't know if I'll use this bit. This bit came from this one. So this was sort of up in here somewhere. It was a funny shape, that one. So I've rescued some of that hand embroidery. Again, don't know if it'll go in, but it's hand embroidery and I didn't want to toss it. Anything I don't use in the quilt, I might even make up a little cushion or a little bag or a purse or something. This is from that, where did I put it? I just had the bloody thing, this one. So this is from the same cloth. That might be it for the little embroidered bits. Of course I've got more in the other shapes, in the other sizes. I've still got a tub full of different size bits I've cut out. So there you have it. That's what I'm up to with my, oh, I haven't shown you, gee, I'm a goose. I still haven't shown you how I piece it together. Let's see if we can find, of course I'll go for the most difficult one. Let's find something that's not as difficult. I've done this design so many times because it's an easy one. I haven't done them all yet either. I haven't done all the different patterns yet. Maybe we can do one of these because this looks like a simpler. So I've got bits spread everywhere that I'm trying to organise. Let's try and ignore that. So this one here, this pattern, we've got 2 the same size here and 2 the same size here. So let's dive into our basket and see what we have. I'd love to use that, but it's very similar to that blue already, isn't it? I think I've done one with that colour as well. Let's keep one of those out. There's a purple. I love those colours. Problem is I keep putting the same colours together. This is one I haven't used yet. I'm not sure if it'll work. This is a beautiful 70s piece of vintage sheeting. I love this. Actually, I bought a piece of this a couple of years ago from a lady. And I thought I was buying a whole sheet. And when it arrived, it was only half of a whole sheet, I believe. Not even half, maybe. I was hoping I could get enough to make myself a top, but I don't think there's enough there. So I've cut a little bit off anyway. Maybe I can use a bit of that. This is where I spend ages deciding what colour I'm going to use. I'm hopeless when it comes to choosing the colours. Look, I could do one. I could put, there's a embroidered flower. Oh, what about this? We might have to do this in one. Look at that. That's an embroidered bit that I've reclaimed recently. That was been thrown in the bin, that one. What about, let's put all these away because I don't want those now, I don't think. I do love them, but I think I've chosen something to go with. So what about that one and that one? I don't know about that red now. Ignore those because we're going to cover them. I don't know now about that red next to that. What about, would that be better? Oh, that is delicious. I've also got to remember, like they go beautifully together, but I've got to remember it's all got to blend in with the entire quilt. So, don't go looking for more colours, lady. No, I'll sit there on those two for now. Let's try and, I'm just going to try and tidy these ones back up so they can go back in here. Now I need some that size. Where are they? Over here maybe? Oh, purple would be good, but I don't want to have purple and purple. So that one's out of the question. I quite like that blue, but it might be too much. It's too cool. What about that? Don't like, there's another purple. That's too close to that. I'd love to put that in, but it's too much, too similar. Oh, what about this colour? It might be a bit too heavy. Oh, look at that. I don't mind that. Is it too cool though? Too much cool in one spot. That's too heavy, I think. Although I think I should mix them up a bit more. You know what? I'm not going to sit here and dig and dig and dig like I do nearly every time. I'm just going to sit with those. I'm going to use those. I'm happy with those colours. Might regret it later down the track. I probably should mix a bit more. That orange is good though. Let's move that out, see if that will help us see better. Okay. Unfortunately, the colours aren't as vibrant through the monitor as they are in real life, so it's a bit hard for you guys to see. Okay. Tell me, the orange check, which is from a vintage apron, or that one? I think I like that one. Any opinions? What do you think? Orange check. I don't mind that actually, or that one. I do like that. I keep coming back to that one, don't I? Orange check. I still have my comments on. Yeah. Any opinions, guys? The orange check with these or this peachy colour? I'm going to stick with that, I think. I keep coming back to it. I still like the orange check though. So what I do next, I've got a mess everywhere, so that's not helping. I should tidy up my workspace a bit so I don't drop things or get more spillages. I can't believe I've got that spillage on there. Okay, I've chosen my pieces for this block. What I'm going to do now is make sure, are they directional? Am I going to put this in that way in the quilt, or am I going to put it in this way? I think I like that way because I've got one Hello Kitty looking up right that way. These flowers look like they're more upright in that direction. So now what I'm going to do, this one might be a bit tricky because see I've got some lace on there and I don't think I want to take that off because I don't think the fabric goes all the way into that corner. No, it doesn't. So that's going to help hold the piece together, but I'm going to trim this bit off a little bit here. I'll just try and get rid of a bit of that chunk. I don't know what I'd love to remove that, but I fear if I do, that corner will pull away once I stitch it together. I'm going to lose some of that flower. What a bugger. Look at that embroidery there. My 1/4 inch is going to come into here. Anyway, couldn't be helped because that was right on the edge. So what I'm going to do now is decided on the direction I want it to go. I pick up this lightest weight. So this is the lightest weight piece and the smallest piece, which would help. Double check my direction. Now I want to draw a line on this side. So I'm going to flip it over and draw my... Again, I don't normally have all these bits under here. I'm just running out of space to show you how I do this. I want my 1/4 inch line. Now this 1/4 inch line I do just inside. I don't know if you can see. Because I can't. Can you see in that corner there? I've got my red line. Just on the inside, I've got a little bit of fabric poking out. So I try to do that every time, put it in the same position so I get some consistency. I'm drawing this line shifted then, so make sure I straighten it up again. Crikey. Of course I can't get it back in the same spot. That'd be too easy. Okay, oh, no. This is why I'd love one a bit smaller. Okay, you rotter. Still not quite right. Okay, so I've drawn that line on. That will go there. Now this one, I want that to face there, so let's draw this line on here. I'm not in the shot, far out. You guys are probably twiddling your thumbs looking into the air for half of this. We've got fading light already. Now let's draw that line. Okay, I'll move that rule out of the way because there's not much room here. We don't need this fella, he's jumped over from here. Let's check our direction again. Now, we want that one there. Now, I did have, I keep losing these, so I've only got one now. I can't find the others. Quilt clips. So I try and line this all up nice and square. And because I'm right-handed, I will stitch from right to left. So I put my first clip over here. I was tacking all these down before I stitched, but that's taking me so much extra time that I could be doing sewing the actual piece together. So I'm trying now just to use clips or pins. I've noticed with the pins, the moves the fabric that just enough that it throws it out of whack. If that makes sense. I don't know how to explain what I'm thinking. The pins shift the fabric, you know, a quarter of a mil or something, and it's enough to throw out the dimensions if I continue doing that. So I'm currently working with a massive big crowbar because my eyes have been that bad, I haven't been able to see what I'm doing. I wouldn't normally work with a needle this large. I haven't been able to thread it or see what I'm doing, but I might continue with this because that's what I've been using for now. And I'm using some vintage crochet cotton because I like a heavier weight. I might regret this in years to come. It may make my fabric wear quicker. So again, just checking that it's all lined up. And I'm going to try, because I can't find any more clips out here, I'm going to try and just hold this in place. Now, how I'm doing it is I'm coming in, this is a little bit exaggerated for your viewing. So I come in just above that line from the top, and I leave a tail that I hold down with my left hand. Make sure it's all lined up square again. And then I come up in front of it over here. I'll come up from the back. Now, I don't know if this is a thing. I don't know. I've never seen anyone do this. Maybe this is how it's done. I don't know. But this is the technique I've come up with. It's taken me a few of these squares to come up with this. It may change again as I go along. Then I'm going back in pretty much on top of that where I've come up, if I can. Try and split that thread a bit. And that secures that so we don't actually have a knot there. I then come up, see that fabric shifted in doing that. Now I come up from the back again, I try and get just above that line, and I'm trying to do my stitches probably, I don't have a measure here, probably 1 mil to 1.5 mil apart, sometimes 2 mil. That's just my personal preference. I like to get them nice and close. I find it helps reduce the chance of it warping. And I don't do a running stitch, I do a stab stitch again, because it reduces the chance of the fabric warping or twisting, and I like the finished look better. So this is a very laborious way of hand stitching a quilt together, but I'm hoping when it's all pieced together I'll get a better result, because I can guarantee you that stitch got a bit wide, didn't it? If I do my stitches like this, if I go, I'm going to go above it because I know if I go, I'm going to pull these out. I know if I go on that line I might see them, so I'm just going to do this for demonstration's sake. So if I do my stitches like this, like most people do a quilter stitch. I guarantee you I will warp my fabric, even though, you know, you pull it out, you get it all nice and neat and straight and whatnot. I still end up with a slightly warped fabric, so I much prefer this technique. And I remember when I was last in at and I apologise sincerely, I don't know the lady's name that served me. Very lovely lady. She had a look at my square that I'd done. I was just trying to get some fabrics that would work well with it. And she's like, oh, you know, that's lovely. And then she's going, hang on a minute. Have you stab stitched that? Are you going up, down, up, down, up, down? I'm like, yep. She's like, oh my gosh, that's going to take you forever. Yep. But, as I mentioned, I'll try and get to the end of this. I'm doing a lot of chatting. You can see that's puckering a little bit now. That's because I've done that. Just because I started to do that running stitch up there. So normally I don't have that happen. And again, this cotton and this needle is certainly not ideal for quilt making. It's also actually easier to pull through with all the interfacing as well. So essentially I've got 4 layers here. When I'm going through some of these other pieces, this one here will be difficult with all those layers. And the applique pieces, some of those, goodness knows how many layers I've got to go through. But I found with this big crowbar of a needle, it's so much easier to get through them all. Let's bring you out a little bit more. So I was determined, absolutely determined this morning when I got up, even when I went to bed last night, that I was going to spend the day finalising some invoices and parcels and then getting started on some new items to upload. And guess what? I've hardly got any of that done, but I desperately needed to spend some time sitting outside in the sun, just doing something for myself. I haven't for so long. Well, I went to baseball last weekend actually. See, this is what I'm missing, I think. I didn't get to baseball yesterday. It wasn't at home, so the person I get the lift with, who happens to be my ex-husband, he wasn't driving to the other ground. It was quite a fair drive away. So I didn't even ask him for a lift, and I didn't have any other options. So I didn't get there. And you know what? I was a bit relieved because I needed to rest. I've had such a huge few weeks with tests and scans and all sorts of appointments and things. I just needed the day to rest, and today's been another day of rest, really. You can see my stitches are not very consistent. I do try to keep them consistent. I'm getting distracted, that's part of the problem, because Willow's trying to get out. And I try to stay above that line, but you can see that one's wandered a little bit. Sometimes I will go back and unpick that if I think it's going to be an issue. You have to stay in, sweetheart, till I'm finished. I'll wind it up soon. I'm nearly at the end, but essentially when I get to the end, I'm just doing, that one was a bit big again, I'm just doing the same as what I did at the beginning. So the other thing is to be mindful of, if you haven't done this before, you've got to untangle the thread as you go, or it will not a lot easier. It sort of twists back on itself. It's getting noisy around here, isn't it? The problem, I was thinking too, the problem with these colours I've chosen, okay, we're nearly at the end there. So I'll come up there and then I'm going to go back in. I'm coming back in this direction now. So I'm going to come back in there, try and split that previous stitch slightly, and then I'm going to come up again with this one, and then I'm just going to snip off the thread, and that's that one done. So what I can do then is finger press that open. One day I might buy one of those rollers. I can't afford them at the moment, but they'd be handy doing this, wouldn't they? Okay, that one's finger pressed open. Now we'll move over to this one. Try and line that up so it's all square. I tell you what, my knees are screaming sitting here. I need to get a better desk set up because this is not good for my body. Okay, now I don't know if you can see as I've picked that up, it's shifted, so I'm just going to try and pull that back into place. It'd be good to have another clip. Okay, let's start again. Come in about, I don't know, 4 mil, I suppose, to start with that one. I'm changing measurements as well. I'm going from inches to mil. Maybe not quite 1/4 inch. It's really trying hard to make sure this isn't shifting because of all that embroidery under there. It's just wonky enough that there's a bit of movement happening. So I've come up on the outside of that original stitch, and then I'm going to, checking that's lined up again, I'm going to come down and try and split that stitch or go in the same hole, sort of ish. We don't want to split it too hard because then it will come undone, it'll break. But it's basically just enough to, you know, go in the same hole. It gives us a bit of a holding stitch. Now I've already arrived at a piece of embroidery. Oh my goodness, the noise next to the exhaust smell, that is horrible. Now, trying to put a bit of extra support with my fingers behind that as I'm going to try and reduce the amount of warpage. Now this is a bit of a challenge because I'm coming up to, I'm stitching straight onto that embroidery at the moment. Now I want to also make sure I'm pulling this a little bit firmer to make sure we're hugging right into that embroidery. The light isn't great here at the moment, is it? What if I move the umbrella over? Maybe I won't move the umbrella over, it won't budge. I forgot that big umbrella was there. The neighbours are probably driving past thinking, what on earth is she up to now? Yeah, I want to pull it a little bit firmer than I normally would, just to try and get that to hug around that embroidery, but we're not pulling it too hard as to make it pucker. Again, just trying to keep above that drawn line. Just checking the back because I thought I might have had a knot there then, but I haven't. It just felt like it knotted, which might mean that I need to untwist my thread as well. I know, sweetheart, you've been very patient. I'll just finish this block and I'll come out. I'll come in. Okay. Again, following along just above that line. And you can see that Liberty's starting to pull up a little bit because I'm pulling it down against that. It's a much finer weight fabric compared to the linen and the embroidery that I'm stitching onto. But if I take my time, I should be able to keep it all nice and flat. Now I've come to a very thick piece of embroidery. What I'm doing here, I'm getting the needle through, but I want to make sure I'm coming straight up from the back. I could feel that I was coming in at a bit too much of an angle, which again would cause that fabric to pucker, especially over the top of this embroidery. Again, it's trying to keep straight on the top through that embroidery. See, I can feel that's not quite in the right spot, so I just keep poking, feeling until it's... Again, though, we don't want to be doing too much poking because that will be tearing the fabric. It's a bit of a catch-22. A lot of the time I'm already through that first fabric. I'm just trying to find my way up through that liberty in the right spot. Willow's getting impatient with me. She had been out here for quite some time and I had told her she could stay out here with me, but she decided to go in. Unfortunately, we don't have the yard's not fenced out the front, so she can't just wander around. She'd love to just wander around out here with me. She'd be out here all day. So when I let her out, she's on like a runner out the front here. But I very rarely leave her on her own. If I do, it's just to go and check the cooking or something, and I come straight back. But she's got a button at the door that says inside. So when she's ready to come inside, she presses the button if I'm not aware that she's finished, if I'm in the kitchen, or if I've come in to answer the phone or something. As you've probably noticed, oh, that one was a very thick piece. As you've probably noticed, this one's taking a lot longer than the last one. And that's because I'm tackling that embroidery. I'm trying to make sure I'm much more aware of trying to get my stitches straight up and down on this piece. So I'm not twisting the fabric or as much. And I'm trying to do much smaller stitches as well to make sure there's no gaps when I open that seam. And just check to see I haven't missed any comments. No. No one's been talking to me while I've been stitching. I'll tell you what though, I feel like my patellas are going to explode out of the front of my knees at the moment. My goodness, they're hurting. Oh, crikey. Okay, move that along a bit. I like to try and keep that up there as long as I can to make sure that fabric doesn't shift. That has a tendency now, that top one, it wants to start creeping inwards. Because that bottom fabric is so thick. Okay. And I think I just slipped off a bit of embroidery then, so that's going to want to try and pull it in as well. Oh, crikey, that's a thick bit. We're nearly there, guys. Nearly at the end of this piece. Again, trying to do smaller stitches, so I think this might be my last stitch along here. The other thing is I don't go right up to that edge because I might have to trim these pieces back. I doubt it because they should be cut to size. So now I'm coming back up on top of that last stitch on the inside of it. I'll go down again into or next to the next stitch. And then I'm going to come back up again and trying to make sure every time I'm well above that line. Sometimes I'm off and I get below the line. Okay, we can take the clip off. We can snip the cotton off. And then we can finger press this. Unfortunately, we lost a bit of that flower, but that could not be avoided because that was the closest it could be cut. So again, there's our Hello Kitty looking down that way. We nearly lost him there. This one will go that way. So because this piece has got the embroidery on it, it's going to be a bit wonky. So I'm going to draw my line on this piece this time. Finger press that a bit more. I might even, sometimes I run the back of my scissors over it, which I shouldn't because this will stretch the fabric. But I'm just trying to press that seam down a bit more. Again, be careful doing this because it will stretch the fabric. Okay, so we need that side. Where's my rule? Hoping I'm not cutting you out of the... My table's warped. My ruler's warped. Now, the other thing I want to be mindful of here, I've lined this up with this larger piece of fabric. I don't know if you can see. I've tried to do it again just inside that piece, that edge. Now, I'm going to hold that and I'm going to draw the line on this first piece of fabric. Let's shift it a little bit, so let's make sure that's back in there. Now this smaller piece of fabric has, it's sort of, how can I explain? It's bending upwards, like it's not as square. So I'm going to lift my rule and make sure I square up that piece up here. And then I'm going to draw, and they're going to be my stitch lines. And don't worry, it doesn't bend once it's stitched together. It all comes together quite well. Okay, try and line them up nice and evenly. Now this is where it gets a bit challenging because I don't have any more clips. Now I like to put a clip on that seam. That scared the bejeebers out of me then. Oh, my knees. There's a pin. I do this a bit differently if I want to join those seams to get my points. But because I don't have to worry about points on this one, again, make sure it's all lined up. And I'm going to use a pin because that's all I've got. Can you see how the pin warps the fabric a bit? I've tried to do that at a bit of an angle so I'm not pulling down, but the rest of that looks pretty square. So let's start. Oh, I apologise for the moaning and groaning. I'm trying really hard not to. I really am. It's probably a good thing I didn't end up with a microphone on today. Okay, again, as with the last two, I'm coming in, I don't know, 2 or 3 mil from the end there. I'm holding that tail down now. I usually make it shorter, but it doesn't matter too much. I just like to utilise as much of it as I can. Coming back up on the outside there. Focus, you rotter. Hard to see. And then go back in next to that, right on top of that first thread if I can. And that's my anchor stitch, so I don't have any knots. I don't want any knots in it because I don't want them to, when I get the quilt all quilted together, I don't want to feel knots through it anywhere. You probably won't, but I don't want to risk it. Again, just double checking that there's no fabric moving. There are quite a few layers here that I'm going through. I mean, this is the embroidered bit underneath. And this first fabric, this is a vintage fabric. It's a bit of a thicker vintage fabric, which is good. And then I've got that interfacing on both pieces. So there's at least 4 layers happening plus the embroidery underneath. We're losing light quite quickly now, aren't we? You can, if you wish, when you're doing these stitches, thread your tail back through as you go if you want, but I usually don't bother about that. It would give you a bit more anchorage, I suppose, stabilisation, less chance of that coming undone. Oh, crikey. Okay. I'm trying to go fast now because Willow's getting very impatient with me. I wonder if I can let her out while the cord's still up. I don't know if she wants to go to the toilet or she just wants some attention. Because she's not actually pressing any buttons, she's playing, which makes me think it's an attention rather than a loo break. She was asking for more food earlier and a shower. I said, it's too bloody cold for a shower. You're not having a shower today. Okay, now this is where I changed where I was drawing the line. So what I want to do here is push this piece up, make sure it was just off by like 1/2 mil or something. But I just want to make sure it all lines up, this lines up, this lines up before I do my next stitch to hold that down. And again, yes, I'm being very pedantic, but the more pedantic I am now, the easier it will be when I go to piece it all together. It should all piece together well, in theory. As I said, I haven't done one before. Okay, Bubba, I don't know if you can hear, she's pressing the outside button now. Oh, I don't know if I can do this because my knees won't work. I'm just going to try and let her out. If I can do this from my seat, which I don't think I quite can. Okay, using my gardening knife to pick up her lead, her runner. Then I'm going to try and use... I can't stand up while I'm recording because I don't want you to hear me scream in agony when I try and stand up. And the thing is set up in front of the door, so I need to try and get her out. I'm using the walking stick to open the door, trying to use the walking stick to open the door. And it's a Canadian walking stick, so it's a bit of a challenge. I keep looping it, but because it's got these, see the split here? The handle keeps slipping through it. Okay, now, oh bugger, it's so close. Okay. Bugger, now I've dropped the... Okay, trying to hold the door open with the walking stick. I've got to try and pick a lead up again, her runner that I just dropped. Out comes the garden knife that's tucked into my seat stool I'm sitting on. If you guys could see this comedy of errors, crikey. Okay, pick up the runner, use my teeth to open it, and then try and catch her as she comes through. Okay, babe, come on. Come on, out you come. I can't hold this open forever, it's difficult. Come on, you want to come outside? Come on. You need to crawl through that hole I've made. Good girl, come on. Good girl. Good job, we did it. Yeah, we did it. We did. I know you're a clever girl. I know. Be careful, Bubba, you're hurting my knees with that lovely wagging tail. I know we did it. You're clever. Oh, okay. Okay, now you're going to knock the stand over, sweetheart. Well, you wanted to come outside. You're going to go down on the lawn, or are you going to stay here and keep tail wagging the stand? Oh, my goodness. Okay, sweetheart, stop wagging. Try and stop wagging, Bubby. You're knocking everything over. Okay, we achieved that challenge. Okay, let's try and finish this stitching, hey? She's sitting, not trying to sit on my lap now. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, we're nearly there. Well, we're not nearly there. We're about a third of the way there. I think it's more than a quarter. Okay, I could probably take that needle out now, but I might stick it in along. Actually, I might go that way since we've got that embroidery there. Oh, see, I don't like how the needles pull that open, but it's stopping that from. This front piece wants to rise up a bit, so that's stopping that from happening. So now, see how I'm holding it? I'm sort of holding that out taut as I stitch. And I tend to do that on these larger pieces, which helps me keep it in line a bit better as well. She's gone down on the lawn now, the little bugger. That was such a comedy of errors. I wish you could have seen me sitting on my garden stool on the front veranda. I've got a great big 1970s, 50s, 60s big picnic cotton umbrella up over me to cut the sun out because the phone kept overheating earlier. I've got my phone stand set up. Oh, she's just stuck her head under my arm and just about sent me flying. Okay, I love you too, but crikey. So the phone stand's plugged in. There's a stupid power outlet on the ceiling in the awning on the front veranda. So I've got a cable plugged in there that's then plugged in. I've got the phone plugged into because if I always end up going way too long and the phone goes flat. So I've got it plugged in for power. I've got the charger strapped sticky tape to the phone stand, and they're both across in front of the front door because of course the outlet's on the other side of the door. So yeah, I had to try and get the front door open while not getting up off my stool, because you would not want to hear me screaming trying to get up at the moment with my agonizing knees. So using my Canadian walking stick to try and loop the screen handle. Thankfully the door wasn't latched, or I would not have been able to do that. I don't think I would have been able to unlatch it from here. So essentially I had the walking stick holding the screen door open, probably around the same height as the swing arm here on the phone stand. The cable's coming across in front of the door as well and hanging down a bit further than that. Trying to hold the screen door open, she had to negotiate the screen door, the cable hanging over her head, the walking stick over her head, but then the legs on the phone stand are coming out as well in her path. And in the meantime, I'm trying to loop her runner over her head as she's going past before she took off. So it was a bit funny. I thought it was. She thought it was. She had a bit of a celebration once she got through. As you would have seen from the tail wagging hitting the... Okay, we're getting something interesting happening here. Is it because that pin is there? That's moving that. Stop picking stuff up off the ground, please. You don't know what it is. It might not be good for you. Yucky. Stop eating stones and shit. Where was I up to? I'm so close to getting this square done that I'd like to show you guys. Now, I've just noticed this has shifted. See that? That was sitting like that, but if I pull that down, I might have to put that pin over here. to keep that square. Oh, you bastard. This is why I hate the pins. It shifts at a mil or two. Okay, that looks a bit better. That all looks square now. So I know some of you might be saying, what are you worried about a mil or half a mil for? Because each one of these squares has at least one seam in it. In this instance, there's two. And then I put 3 of these together to make a 12-inch square. So potentially there could be up to, like some of these, like look at this one. One seam, 2, oh, there's only 2 there. 2, 3, 3, 6, 9. Potentially there could be at least 9 seams. What? Stop eating shit off the ground. You don't do that. What are you doing? Stop it. Oh, I've got chicken manure. I wonder if she's eating that. For goodness sake. So potentially there could be 9 of those seams, this is exaggerating a bit, across one 12-inch square. So if I'm out by up to a mil on each square, there's 9 mil. So what's 9 mil add up to? I can't think. Nearly a centimetre. And then when I add that, if I add those 4-inch squares together, so if I go 6 across, you know, the width of the bed, for example, that could potentially be up to 50, 60 centimetres difference. That sounds extreme. That can't be right. I've done my math wrong. But anyway, essentially, if I'm not as accurate as I can be, my quilt may not fit together in the end, if that makes sense. I'm not opening that door to let you back inside until I'm finished now, Bullfed. I'm not going to go through all that again. Crikey, Moses. What do you think it is? Bush week. Go and sit on the lawn for a while or watch the kids down the road or something. Surely you can entertain yourself for a bit longer while I finish this. Don't get into anything you shouldn't though. She usually just stands and watches the neighbourhood. Not that she can see much. There's a hedge on one side. Standing out here, surveying her domain. Oh, that was a thick bit. Just checking again. Look, now I've got a knot. There we go. Trying to make sure it's not shifting again as I go. All this embroidery I can feel. I fear I'm going to lose so much of it once I open the seams up. Oh, crikey. I made a simple soup for dinner last night. I had some rice noodles I've had for ages and chicken stock that's nearly always in the pantry, and I added some, I just have a jar of ginger and garlic. I haven't been using fresh stuff lately because it's too expensive and I can't keep it well enough for it to be worth me paying for. I prefer fresh, but anyway. Put a bit of soy sauce, a bit of, what else did I put in? Not much, it was very basic. I had some bok choy, so I chopped up some bok choy and put in. I had some dried shiitake mushrooms that I store in the pantry, so I put some of those in. I boiled an egg to have on top, so it was sort of a ramen-ish, but not. Put some shredded carrot in. And that was about it, really. I had a jar of, I think it's called mushroom sauce, but it's actually dehydrated mushrooms or dried mushrooms in an oil, chili and garlic oil. It's not spicy because my gut doesn't handle spicy at all, but it's because it's mushrooms, it's got this real umami flavour, obviously, and it's so delicious. So I put a spoon of that in it, and some crunchy chili oil, which again is, I don't think is spicy. And oh my gosh, I had about 3 mouthfuls and I was full. So I've got leftovers for dinner. Look, see, that's shifted. I haven't been paying attention. See how that's shifted up there? We might be okay, because that bottom join doesn't look too bad. But that was the first thing I've cooked in weeks from memory, and it took so much out of me. I think that's why I only ate a couple of spoonfuls, because I was so exhausted. I've tried to set up a chair in the kitchen, but it's just too painful. My dining room chairs are really painful to sit on at the moment. The angle that my knees sit at is just excruciating. This stool's the same. It's very painful. So I tried to set up my, see, that has shifted a bit again. I tried to set up my fold-up chair. I can't get that in the right spot. Because the fold-up chair in general is more comfortable at the moment than my dining chair, but it still didn't work. So I haven't really come up with a solution yet as to how I can get my cooking and washing and whatnot done. I can only stand for short periods of time again. Normally I'm on my feet all day, every day, and maybe that's why I've done so much damage to my knees. I can't stand, I can't sit. It's so painful. But anyway, enough of that. We're going to get to the bottom of it very soon, I hope. So here we go, the last couple of stitches. I think I'm pushing it if I try and get another one in. The last stitch here, and then I'll come back a stitch into where we've gone down with that last one, and then do another one up. Because I've come up between a stitch, I'm going to go again just for double measure, and then back up again. I always like to finish on the front of my work for these blocks. Why? I don't know. It's just something I've been doing. My preference at the moment. There's the clip, and there is a 4.5 inch block complete. How's that? It still doesn't look square. And hopefully, see how that, I don't know if you can see, that bows along that edge. Maybe once it's pressed, I think it'll be okay. I know, some of you will be looking at me going, you'll be stretching your fabric. Yeah, I know, I'm doing it deliberately. I am manipulating the fabric a bit, and I think I can get away with it because of the interfacing on the back. So there we go. That could have potentially bored you all stupid. Bye-bye, don't get in my face when you've got dribbly ghoulies everywhere. Yucko. Now you're going to try and sit on my lap. You're a silly girl. She's, it's getting cool here. She hasn't got a jacket on and she's getting quite cold out here, aren't you, bugger? You got mozzies hanging off you too. You are going to have to go inside. You've got pongy breath. I'm going to have to check your teeth. Do you want to say hooray to everyone? It's probably time to say hooray and pack up. Get your Jackie on and get you nice and warm. What on earth is on your table? Something yucky. Well, let's call it quits for tonight. Hey guys, We're losing light. I'm getting really sore. I'm sure you must be bored silly of watching this. Ugh. Of listening to me at least. You got something yuck on your tail, dude. I don't want it on this stuff. Thanks for joining me again. Listening to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed this, for starters. I hope you may have learned something new today. And again, don't forget, nearly everything I do is self-taught. I did study fine embroidery for many years. That's not self-taught. Some of the techniques I do are. I think my quilting techniques are pretty well self-taught. A lot of the other things I do are self-taught. You know, I watch videos here and there. Like, for example, I watched how Beck constructed her needle books, and I've just gone off on my own since then. That's one example. So yeah, I'm certainly not, my point is, I'm not the be-all and end-all expert of this is how you do it. But I've also learned over the years when, oh, crikey, sorry guys. I don't know if you heard that crack. That was me trying to straighten my leg a little bit. That's the good one too. What I've learned over the years is when I studied fine embroidery, the tutors are nearly always, might have only been one. Jenny Rofe was one, I think, that didn't tell us how we had to do it. And the crochet lady, Prudence Mapstone, she was a great tutor for saying, you know, do it your way. If you get the final outcome the same, that is the desired outcome we want, who cares how you've done it? Prudence was great for that. She was really good. So was Jenny. But over the years, many of my tutors used to say, this is how you do it. It has to be done this way. There's no ifs or buts. You know, I had one particular embroidery tutor, and she taught us to never use knots unless we were basting or we needed a knot for a specific role. But in embroidery, you do not use knots. So I've always learned, if I'm doing embroidery, I don't use any knots. See this sort of embroidery, wool embroidery, I don't use knots because that's what I've been taught. And I don't travel. So for example, if I was embroidering this piece, you know, I'd do my green, and then I wouldn't keep that thread and travel across to my next leaf. I'd end that off and then start again, because this particular tutor taught us that if we travelled, she'd make us unpick it and do it again without travelling. If we used knots, she'd know. If we used knots, we'd have to unpick it and do again. She'd either feel the knots or she'd hold it up. Most of the time you can feel them. Interestingly, I can't feel any. There's no knots in this embroidery, except those surface knots that are supposed to be there. I can't feel any knots in that. Isn't that incredible? So it's not very often you come across embroidery that doesn't have knots. I can't feel knots in that one. I know this has knots. I can see them for starters. Look at that knot there. See how much it's come out? It's worked loose. Not that it matters. It just makes a difference to the final product, you know. By the time you press it, you get lumpy bits. But anyway, this particular tutor taught us you do not use knots. You do not travel when you're embroidering. So I'm still stuck by that. And I do get very pedantic about it. I know I do. But the point is, I try really hard not to do that to other people. I used to when I first started teaching. I was so focused on, you must do it this way. There is no other way. This is how the handbook says you do it. This is how it's traditionally done. This is how it must be done. I think unless you were specifically doing period, authentic reproduction, you know, I don't think there really is a need that you must do it that way. But yeah, I've gone off track a bit now, haven't I? essentially, yes, I'm pedantic in how I'm doing this, but I want my finished product to be the best I can do at this point in time in my life. I have looked back on some of my earlier embroideries and I think, oh my God, how did I do that? How have I done that fine, incredibly precise embroidery? I would not be able to do that now. So what I've got in mind with this quilt, because I really want to complete it, I'm planning on making mine larger than Sue's original design, because I want mine to fit over a queen or a king size bed. I don't know yet. I haven't bought my new bed and I won't be buying that until I move. And that will all depend on how much space I've got when I move. So potentially my quilt will be, it will be a bed size quilt, a large bed. And ideally, in my mind, I'm thinking that I'd like it to be an heirloom that will get passed down. Whether that will happen, I don't know. And in the whole scheme of things, it probably doesn't matter. But that's what I've got in mind while I'm making this quilt. I'm trying to make this quilt so it will last to be handed down through the generations. I don't know which generations because neither of my children have had children. And at this point, I don't know if they ever will. But yeah, that's my thoughts behind this quilt. So yes, I do get picky, I do get pedantic, I do measure and measure and measure and probably go way overboard, but hopefully it will be, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, sorry. I'm rambling now, I always do, I apologise. I always tell myself not to ramble at the end of these videos and then I ramble and ramble and ramble and you must get so bored of me. So what I'm going to do now, I was going to sign off and say goodbye, but maybe, just maybe, I can keep the camera running while I pack up. I don't know if it will be any interest for you to watch what I'm doing. Probably not, because, you know, I'm just packing up. I do have funny little things here and there. So in my little zippered pouch here, I've got this. Friend gave me this last year. I think it was originally a Christmas decoration, but when she gave it to me, it already had needles in it, so that's what I use it for. I've been using it as a pin cushion, made in Hungary. Hand embroidery, 55% wool, 45% cotton. So that poor little thing lives in my little Estee Lauder zippered pouch. It's needs. I made the pouch I made using because it's putrid. I don't know how I get my stuff so dirty. I'm just looking at the patches I've already made and they're really grubby as well. I always wash my hands. I always clean the surfaces down before I start working on them. But I'm wondering if I need to go back to what I was taught to do and wrap everything in a towel as I'm working on it to keep it clean. This needle case, I think I've shown you this before. It's always got things on top of it and in it. My son designed this when he was only about 5 years old. He was very, very, very young. At the time, I was making a lot of things to sell at the markets just to try and make ends meet. I believe this is acrylic felt. It might not, yeah, it feels like acrylic. Might not be, because I did use with a lot of wool back then. I think it's acrylic. He had been watching me make these little needle pouches. Just very simple. They've just got a piece here with 2 pockets that I stick. You can't see, there's packets of needles in there. But he designed this pattern. He showed me that he wanted the grass. He drew a very basic thing and I worked out he wanted the grass along the bottom here. And then he's actually cut out all the leaves himself. You can see they're basically just squares and diamonds and chunks. He did cut out the flowers, but because I'm so pedantic, I was a horrible mother and I made them all nice and round. I shouldn't. I regret doing stuff like that now. I should have just left it how he'd done it. I don't know if you can see all the dog hair stuck on it now. This thing, as I said, he wasn't even 5. I think he was only about 3. He was only just, he'd only just started preschool. And yeah, he was very young. He's now, he'll be 28 this year. So I've had this poor old thing for a long time. What was I going to say? That's supposed to be a thimble. The poor thing keeps getting squished. I was going to say something about that. I can't remember now. Oh, I don't want to lose that. I keep losing my clips. My quilt clips. Oh, my knees. So I've got a pile here of my... This is probably why they keep getting grubby, because I keep pulling them out to show people. There's my 4.5 inch embroidered and not embroidered squares. Here's those fabrics. I've already got, I didn't even show you this. Already ironed some interfacing onto some bits of these so I can start cutting them out. Where's the piece we cut out earlier? Under the bench here. So I will try and fold it up and just trying to keep things neat here, so otherwise everything will just get all screwed up and thrown into a bag, because I can get dreadful like that. So they're going to go over in this working basket. I've got another basket over here with more bits of fabrics that I'm using on this project, more vintage, bits that are too small, bits that I haven't cut yet, just bits and bits. This is the pile of bits that have got spillage on them from somewhere that has really angered me, and I'm very disappointed in myself. There's my new glasses I got, gee, some while ago now. I still call them new. Again, if you're watching along, I'm just packing up. You don't have to keep... There's probably not going to be much worth seeing, but I just thought for a change I might keep the camera running while I'm packing up. There's another quilt clip. Found another one. I think I had 3 here, and stupidly I've just been clipping them onto the side of this container, so I keep losing them. Oh. Don't forget glasses. I thought I got that up to put them in. I don't use these often because they're my stitching glasses. I've got 2 pairs of stitching glasses actually. One pair's for if I'm writing at a writing distance, and this pair's for when I'm stitching. I don't know why I bother wrapping these up all the time. Try and keep them. Okay, what else have I got? Oh, crikey. I'm going to try and get all these. I started sorting those into colours, didn't I? Didn't finish. So I'm not going to go back to that now because it's getting cold. And I just want to get back inside. This is part of my problem too. See, I get all these out. This is what I was saying earlier. I pull them all out for a project or to sort them. And then get to a point like this where I'm over it. And instead of taking my time to organise them nice and neatly, I just shove them into piles again. Now, I've got to try and remember how I fitted them all into this box. I think they went up in that corner, squishing all those ones. They must have gone in there too. These are my, what do we got? 1.5 by 2.5 inch. I need more of these. I don't have a very big pile of that size. Oh, they go there. I don't have a very big pile of that size. That one can go on that pile. You can't even see it. That goes over in my It's my 3.5-inch pile. That's my 4.5-inch pile. There's different fabrics in all these piles. Some of them are a lot of repeats that I've already shown you, but some of them are some you haven't seen because they're different. That was a bit obvious, wasn't it? Duh. Basically, as Sue suggested, you just use your scraps. So some of these are either little tiny bits of scraps that I've hung on to for years, or some are little tiny bits of scraps that I've bought or people have given me. So they're all different sizes, and if they've only given me tiny little bits, all I can cut out is like a 1.5-inch strip or a 1.5 by 2.5 inch. Or I know you want to go in sweet cheeks, but you're going to have to wait because there's no way I can open that. Oh, maybe I can. Hang on. Give me a minute. Soon, Bubba. Soon. In a minute. She usually knows the meaning of soon. That's one of her buttons. Well, I don't know if she actually knows the meaning, but she knows that if I say soon, it usually isn't too long. There's soon and later. Okay, now, hang on, sweet cheeks. I've got to try and, oh, crikey, I can't move my leg. Come here and I'll take your runner off, your lead off, around your neck. Turn around. Don't do the Barney on me. Now, I'm going to try and, here, look. Try and open the door for you. There you go. Oops, hang on, I've dropped it. Hang on. Okay, here we go, quick. Good girl. Good job. Oh, that was a mission again. It wasn't as bad as the first time, but we got there. Okay, now, what have we got? They're the ones that need to be washed. Now, here are the 3.5-inch squares, I think. I just sort of squish them there. These are the 4.5-inch squares. So I try and put the big ones on top to try and hold it all in. It was originally, I'd had enough, I only had enough in there that I could actually put the lid on. I can't fit the lid on anymore. I should try and scale back a bit, I suppose, but at least if I do this, I know where they are. I'm currently now just trying to neatly pile up the squares I've already done. I'll tell you what, gee, they look grubby. I've got to stop dragging them around to show people. Often, if I go out to an appointment or something, I take them with me either as reference or to, you know, you never know when you might come across somewhere where you might come across a fabric that you might want to try and match. So they're getting a bit, I think I'm going to have to either not take them with me anymore. Some of these need a wash, goodness gracious. That needs a press. Okay, I've achieved 3 more in the last week, I think, week and a half, that need to be pressed. So they're on top now. So that's full again. They're the ones that have to be washed. There's the 12.5-inch one I've put together. There's my glasses and my needles. There's the other basket of bits and pieces. Put the little bits under the heavy bits so they don't fall out like that one just did. Oops, the scissors are sticking out the end. Okay, now that's Missy Moo's special eye wipes. That's the bit for my microphone I didn't end up using because the phone's plugged in. I'll put that back in. Now that sticker shouldn't be on that bag. I need to put the mic away. I got these earlier in the year when I had a bit of money. I'll make sure I turn that off. Looks like it's already gone flat. Oh, it must have turned itself. Yeah, it's gone flat. Okay. So they need to be charged. Put that back in there. These are very inexpensive tools that I got earlier in the year, but they've been very useful. My mum got me this on my migraine shit bag, but it's not the fabric we thought it was. It's a dreadful canvasy thing, so I keep my microphone and light, camera light, and some cables in it. My daughter's bought me some badges. Not all disabilities are visible. I'm pretty tough, but some days my body just says nope. Living with fibromyalgia. Just about McFucking had it, that one. And I'm this old. So yeah, there's more in there that she's got me that I need to add to it. Quite a few more. Okay, there's that. There's Missy Moo's. That is a antibacterial wound, antibacterial and insect repellent with purple dye, which I use on Missy Moo. It's been used on a couple of the dogs and the horses. That's one Mum gave me the other day I haven't used yet. It's got magnesium and ginger and eucalyptus. I bought one a while ago that had... That's there because it was in the bag when I was pulling things out. That's if you're wondering. She bought me one... Oh, I bought one a while ago. It's called Chronic. And it's got hemp and menthol or something. It's really good, but I only got sample size because it's quite expensive. But I think it's one of the best, if not the best products I've ever used, that type of thing. It's a bit like Danker Rub or Tiger Balm or something like that. I've got when I set up earlier, I had my breakfast out here. I still hadn't eaten it, so that's my breakfast container I just picked up, and my coffee that I didn't finish. And when the camera overheated and shut down, I finished my breakfast before it came back on. Right, oh, I forgot, I found one of my needlebook kits I put together a while ago yesterday. It was one of the ones that I got. I bought a kit from Beckett's So Be, last year or the year before. I bought a few over the last couple of years. And this particular kit had vintage kimono in it, and it had green kimono, I think, no, a pink, oh, I can't remember. It had two different types in it, but there was enough in this particular kit that I've been able to construct 2 whole needle books. They're not finished yet, but I was really impressed. I don't know, I told her that too, that I was really impressed because I got 2 out of it. I don't know if they will continue to be that generous because I was really impressed with that particular kit. I've lost count of how many kits. I'm nowhere near as many as other people, which, I mean, it's not a competition. I'm just saying. I've bought some, but I suppose I could have potentially bought more. I just never have the money these days, like most of us. Well, some of us. Some of us are really struggling. Some of my friends are millionaires, multi-millionaires, which is great because they've worked hard for it and they're great people. And some of my friends have found it that hard recently. They're living on the streets. They can't pay the rent anymore, and it's just horrendous. I don't remember. I remember things were tough years ago. They got tough in the 80s for us, and there was another great tough period in the 90s. I don't remember it ever being this bad. In fact, Who was I talking to the other day? Someone I know was talking to a fellow the other day. It might have been my daughter. I can't remember. And he was 93. 93, 98. Anyway, this lovely gent was telling this person that he is... Oh, it was the lady I was talking to at the electricity company. That's right. I'd rung about my electricity bill because I couldn't pay it. She was telling me that she had this 98-year-old gent. She'd been on just before me, and he was saying to her that he's never known it to be so tough to get by financially as it is now. So that's saying something coming from a 98-year-old. He's been through some things in his time. And, you know, he would have been through... Well, he probably would have been born in the Great Depression, towards the end of the Great Depression. He would have been through some stuff. And if he's saying this is the toughest time he's ever had, that's saying something. Anyway, let's end on a happy note. I wasn't very happy. Oh, let's show you these lovely flowers again. I don't think you can see. You can't actually see the shimmer on them, can you? It's gotten so dark so quickly. Well, probably hasn't. I've just been distracted. I haven't folded up that umbrella yet. It's not focusing. There we go. I love pansies. I used to hate them. When I was a kid, I used to think pansies and roses and geraniums and marigolds, especially roses though, they were old man's flowers. I hated them. My father used to have them in his garden. And at the time, my father was probably in his 30s. Let me think, 28, 38, in his 40s. He's probably in his 40s, if that. And I was in primary school, so he probably would have been in his 30s, late 30s, mid to late 30s. Anyway, I digress. He used to plant them. He had a beautiful garden, and I hated those flowers because something in my brain told me they were old man's flowers, and only old men grew them, and it was not appropriate for my father to be growing those flowers at his age, and I hated them. But you know what? The last few years, I've really come to love them. I need to stand up to fold up this beautiful vintage umbrella, and I'm not going to do it while I'm recording because you will hear me scream as much as I try not to. I'm pretty sure you will. I will not be able to hold it in. So that said, I'm going to say goodbye, guys. Again, this has been a very drawn out goodbye, hasn't it? Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you again so much for joining me. I can't believe so many of you have hung around right to the end. Thank you so much. As always, I hope you may have learned something useful. I hope, you know, if there's anything you'd like to share with me, please feel welcome. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments after I've uploaded the video. The upload's going to take ages. It'll take at least 24 hours, I'd say, because my internet speeds drop back because I've gone over my limit, because I still haven't got them to install the thing in the house that I'm paying for, the stupid thing. Anyway, I digress. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below after it's uploaded. Please be safe, and I hope you get some time to be creative throughout the week. That's about it, I suppose. Oh, I probably should mention, because I have had a couple of questions, this is just a burn. I knocked the iron over last week, and I sort of went like that to stop it falling on the ground, and it got me. And I didn't run it under cold water because it was too much effort to walk to the sink. So I got a bit of a burn. It's okay. It's not that bad. It's scabbed up. But I have had some questions about it. Anyway, I keep going off topic. I'm going to say hooray again. Thank you again for joining me. If you are making a Forever Scrappy quilt, one of Sue's quilt designs, please let me know. Tag me or go over to one of the two Instagrams I'm using at the moment are Gladys and Maud and Gladys and Maud Unearthed. You can tag me in one of those. I'd love to follow along with your quilt if you're doing one and cheer you on. Yeah, let me know if you're making one. And I'm going to go, okay? So I'm not going to keep going on and on and on. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.